All right, we are live. It's recording. So this recording will be available for you on YouTube, and I'll send you guys the YouTube link where you can find this recording. My name is Sarab Dahal. Nice to meet you all. Thank you all for joining in this wonderful event where we go complete beginner level, complete introduction to web development. And web development is just another aspect of programming. It's you're just programming and making software. You're building software. You're an engineer, software engineer. You can also call it a web developer. You can call it a programmer. You can call it many different things. A lot of umbrella terms. However, most popular is software developer, web developer, software engineer. They all work together because what we're going to learn about here is we're going to learn about how to build web apps. For example, like things like you guys may be familiar with web apps like Facebook, Amazon. You can go on those websites. Google's amazing. It doesn't look like too much. It's just a search bar, but it's got a lot of cool features. So web applications are a certain type of applications that live on the browser, that you can access on the browser via the internet, and it will allow us to create some software, and we're building that. I see a question. You'll be touching on front end and back end. This will be all front end, but it will involve JavaScript as well towards the end. But in our program, we take students through the full stack. What we're going over right now is as much as we can learn in an hour and a half. Okay, as much as we can learn in an hour and a half to 2 hours, however long that's going to take. And we're going to start with the very basics. I'm going to assume that you may not know how to code. You may not even know where to get started. And just to get some icebreaker, and actually before I ask for the icebreaker questions, I would like to encourage everyone to participate, because the saying goes, you learn 20% of what you see, 30 to 40% of what you see and hear. So that's going to be like this lecture, right? 30 to 40%. You're going to learn 30 to 40% of what you see and hear here. 80% of what you do. So when you actually do something, when you're actually building this, let's say you watch the replay video and you're actually building this and you're actually testing out the code and trying out different things from what we learned, and you're building the application that we're about to build, you'll learn like 80% of it. And then to really learn 100% of it, what do you have to do?
Use it.
Use it and explain it to others. Explain it to others. When you have to actually bring out words about what you just learned and what you just built and explain to someone else how to do it, you're gonna learn 100% of it. So there's that 30 to 40% of what you see and hear. That's what you're gonna get if you're just gonna look at this lecture right here. However, you learn 80% of what you actually do, but you know what's the sweet spot in the middle? When you engage, when you participate. When you participate, it's more than just seeing and hearing. You're also still engaging, and it's almost like you're getting ready to do it. So I highly encourage everyone to participate if you want to get the best out of this hour and a half to 2 hours, however long it's going to take. So that's going to be our game plan. And this program, this program is going to start with, I'm going to start with the slides that we have to go through. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here now. You guys can see my screen. Can you guys see my screen here?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah, can you clearly?
Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the slides here. Over to my Zoom. Cool. Present. Okay. So what are we doing? Welcome to Coding Dojo. This is our intro to web development. What we're going to learn here is we're going to learn how the web works, how applications on the web work, and then the building blocks of applications on the web, the starting point, how to build applications on the web. And to start off, we need content in our application, which is HTML. We need to make our application look have a certain style and formatting. That's the CSS. We'll cover that. And then some very basic JavaScript. We're going to touch JavaScript for just a little bit because we don't have too much time. And that's what we're going to be doing. So we're going to learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I will be using Codepen as well as actual text editor. So first we'll talk about our programs, expectation for today, and then we'll actually get to the coding part. I'm trying to get to the coding part as soon as possible because I know that you guys are curious on if this is something that you might want to learn. And so before we get to this, what is your reason for wanting to learn how to code? Put it on the chat. Let's see what everyone's motivations are for wanting to learn how to code. Game development, more opportunities, just enjoy coding, new career, new opportunities, career change, new job, new opportunities. Cool. Mostly career change, work from anywhere. So location freedom. Curious, just curious. Some type of career stability, having a career that's highly in demand. Yeah, and that's, I learned how to code in 2016, something like that. It's been a long time. But my reason was very similar to most of these answers as well. It was because I saw where this world was heading in terms of what kind of skill sets are being sought after and what kind of skill sets are valuable in building things. And engineering is so beautiful, right? You see all these wonderful buildings, all these wonderful bridges, cars, all of this came from engineering. That's all different types of hardware and architecture, different types of engineering, where humans always constantly build things. And then we got into software where we involved building things onto the computer. And next thing you know, we have like this device on our hand where you could do a lot of things you could do banking, you could invest, you could connect with a loved one and call and talk, FaceTime, you can play games, you can watch stand-up comedy, you can even watch a sad movie. You could do all different types of things on the palm of your hand because of engineering as well. That's software engineering. It's not hardware anymore, it's software. And it seems like with software, there was so much unlimited space available because software, you just put it on a device and you can have a bunch of software, right? And that's where everything's heading. And yeah, that was my reason too. Just because seeing where everything's heading and wanting to put myself in the right trajectory in my career as well. So welcome everybody. It's, I'm grateful to have you guys here. Let's talk about our programs that we offer real quick. So these are our programs. There's the full-time program. Okay, it's 14 weeks. Expectation for the workload is 70+ hours per week. Some people can get by in 40 hours per week. Some people, well, most people that join our coding bootcamp do not have any previous coding experience. And that's why you're gonna need to put in those hours, and you need to have that space available in your life to dedicate 40 to 70 hours a week, okay, on learning how to code. The good thing about immersing yourself in coding like this, the benefit is you're building a habit of constantly challenging yourself. And where does growth happen? Does growth happen in your comfort zone? Out of it. Outside of your comfort zone. Growth happens outside of our comfort zone. And learning something challenging that can challenge you, but still be engaging, and you're building something while it's connected to some type of vision you have for your life, that can build a lot of momentum. And when you're doing this consistently for hours per day, every single day, you're gonna build a habit. And when you build a habit, your brain is gonna change completely, because it's almost like if I want to learn a new language, like let's say I want to learn Spanish. Let's say I just go to Spain and live there. I'm immersed. I'm everything I do, I'm required to kind of like use Spanish. in most places. So I'm gonna learn Spanish a lot faster than if I just take like an hour-long class every single day and just like, you know, look at some textbook and be like, okay, yeah, me gusta bailar, you know, like, no, like, yo necesito order my food. I need to order some food right now. So I need to learn Spanish, right? So that's immersion. So that's how the full-time is structured. It's meant to be an immersive experience so that when you come out of it, that's what you've done for like 3.5 to 4 months, is just live, breathe, and eat and code. And when you get into the job search, you are so used to learning so much new material every single day that your trajectory for improving and learning, your ability to learn how to learn, is increasing as well. Part-time and both of the part-time classes are for people that may not want to leave their full-time job and may want to continue their regular schedule that they currently have, but still learn how to code. Okay. And we'll talk more about this, and we actually give full details about this on the open house on how this works. What times the classes start and end typically? For if you're on the Central Coast, or not Central Coast, if you're in Central Time or East Coast time, it's going to be from 10 o'clock Eastern Time till 6 o'clock Eastern Time. So 9 to 5 Central Time. So the 9 to 5 is Central Time. 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time. And we also have a West Coast instruction team. I'm part of the East Coast instruction team. I'm just living in the West Coast. But we also have a West Coast instruction team that is dedicated to 9 to 5 Pacific time. So we have multiple different time zones available. And we also have Zoom. So you see how I can share my screen. You can even share your screen if you wanted to. And then, like, let's say you had some errors with your code, needed help. I'll be able to look at your screen and even draw on it and be like, hey, right over here is where you have to, you know, insert your function. And, you know, we can communicate that way. There's breakout rooms where we can do one-on-one or even a small group session. And also there's Discord, where you'll have access to our class Discord, where you'll be able to, for example, you know, your instructors will be posting some code snippets. This gets pretty complicated pretty fast, but you know, but we'll build you up to this level where you can build different algorithms, different types of algorithms. We'll give you different assignments, tell you what to prepare for the exam. You know, people can talk, share code snippets. You can message one another here, share code snippets, and you can even join each other in help channels where you can see each other's screens and work together. And yeah, it's and we'll have, and even after that 9 to 5 Central Time, when instruction is, we still have teaching assistants available to help you if you get stuck on any problem, if you have any questions and you're working on something doesn't work properly, or if you're confused about something. All they have to do is go to like the help channel. You just click on this help channel and a teaching assistant will come to help you out, right? Hopefully no one comes to help me out right now. Go, leave, get out of here. Okay, cool. So students will go to the help channel and, you know, get help. So there's, even after hours, there's help after 5 o'clock. So cool. So that's how we're gonna be operating. This is sorry, this is from class. I just got finished teaching class. Let me just stop the server from running. This is my React class that I was teaching today. Just get rid of this. Okay. Do you ever foresee a nighttime curriculum? No, I don't. A nighttime curriculum, like nighttime classes? No, I don't think we're gonna have, unless you want to register for the Saudi Arabia program, which we have, which I'm not sure if you're able to register for it from America. I'm not 100% sure about that, but we do have programs internationally as well. So maybe our sales rep, whenever she gets here, can answer all of those questions. I'm an instructor, so a salesperson would have a lot more details about that. But I know we do have a Saudi Arabia program and also some programs in Europe. So maybe. We offer other types of programs as well: data science, cybersecurity, and cloud workshops. So Amazon Web Services. Well, we don't offer Amazon Web Services, but Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure are the two most popular cloud platforms. And then there's also Google Cloud and Oracle Cloud. So fun fact, I actually used to work at Oracle Cloud. I used to be a student here at Coding Dojo in 2017, and then graduated, got a job at a government contractor working as a software developer, and then as a cloud engineer at Oracle. And I can fully attest to the fact that cloud technology and cloud skills are something that's also being more and more in demand as well, along with data science, cybersecurity, as you know, especially with that gas. Remember what happened with the gas company, like especially in the East Coast? I was in the East Coast at the time. They got hacked and couldn't find gas. Did anybody have trouble finding gas for that 1 week? I was in Virginia, couldn't find any gas. I was like, yo, what is going on? Is the world ending? But yeah, that's cybersecurity. Well, yeah, so there's demand for cybersecurity. So let's get started. That was, you know, I want to get to the fun part. So let's talk about how we're going to learn how to program. So we're going to learn how to program, and we're going to start from scratch, complete beginning. I'm going to assume that you don't know anything about programming. Matter of fact, when I first started this program, I opened up Microsoft Word on my first day at the boot camp, and I was looking at everyone's screens, and everyone's screen looked like the Matrix, you know, with like the dark background and like the, you know, colorful fonts. And I'm like, what? My Microsoft Word, I need to cancel my Microsoft Word membership then. And then there, you know, that's sometimes some people start from there, and that was me. That's all good. You know, it happens. Let me open up the chat window so I can see all the engagement here. Cool. All right. So yeah, there are no dumb questions, because I get it. You know, we don't know how to program yet. We don't know anything about coding. Just ask anything you want. There are no such thing as dumb questions here. Okay, just ask, be engaged. Actually, asking a question, you might be surprised. So many other people might have similar questions, and you might be offering value by asking questions. So yeah, we're going to be covering web development, not software development. Well, web is software, so kind of like software development, but we're doing specifically web apps. So not all software development, right? Software development is like an umbrella term, where it can also be like desktop, phone software, you know, different types of software. We're going to be doing specifically web development. So please keep yourself on mute if you aren't speaking, so that the sound quality is good for the video. When you're replaying it later, it'll be much more clear for you, and it'll be a better learning experience for you when you go over this video later. Be active in the chat. We already talked about participation. It's going to increase your ability to learn here. And yeah, we'll talk about the admissions process later. Hakeem, you can't hear me. Can you guys hear me? You guys
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. See in the chat. Someone can hear me. Yeah, Hakeem, you might have to check your audio. Okay. Are we going to be working on a workspace? No, this is going to be a guided demo, but it's going to be an interactive guided demo on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
You mentioned that you were gonna. I'm sorry about that, but you mentioned you were gonna using Codepen.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that I can get and follow along with you, or?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna send you guys the link to that in just a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So Codepen, follow along. Perfectly timed question.
All right.
So that was the next slide. So that's what we're doing. I'm gonna show you guys what the text editor that we're actually going to be using in the bootcamp looks like as well. Initially, just to introduce you to it, and then we'll talk about Codepen. Okay. So Codepen will allow us to code together. So you guys will be able to see the contents. Cool. So those are all the slides there. I'm gonna go ahead and stop this sharing here. Cool. So now let's actually go first into what we want to learn overall, like big picture. How does the web work? So the web works in this format. You'll have like a server, You see this little computer right here? Well, let me draw this out. So this little computer. So this is actually a computer. You see this one? I know it doesn't have any monitors or a keyboard, but it's a computer that doesn't have a monitor or keyboard, but it's not meant for people to just kind of like, play games on or go on, different websites on. This circled part, just this little square box, that's just the computer part of the computer. It's a server. A server is just a computer that has a specific job of serving web pages. Okay, it's like that movie, you just got served, right? But like with a computer. So it's just going to serve web pages to the internet. And the internet is where a bunch of computers are connected to, So let's say this is your computer, and then maybe this one's my computer, and then this one's someone else's computer, and then billions of people with computers, right? And they're all connected to the internet maybe, and they can access different websites, just like you can go on your browser right now. So you can go on your browser on your computer and access a certain website. So if I go to like, let's say ESPN.com, press enter. So what just happened here? Let's slow this down and figure out what just happened here, okay? I went on the web address bar, and you see how it says HTTPS. The S just means there's added security to the website. They have a security certificate. So just an extra layer of security on the website. But it's a HTTP request, hypertext transfer protocol, okay? Right, try saying that at a party. So hypertext transfer protocol, that's what it stands for. You don't need to know, to memorize that to build a web app, okay? But that's what the protocol is. The protocol just means some type of agreement where if I go on www.espn.com, think of this like an address to a certain server. And maybe there's this little server right here, the one that I'm drawing in, let's do green. The one I'm drawing in green, that's the server for ESPN, let's say. Let's say this is ESPN.com server. And let's say a bunch of us go on ESPN.com right now. And let's say us, we're people that are going on ESPN.com, like you and I just went on ESPN.com on my browser. Let's say we're in red, okay? So that's gonna be, right? These computers here, all these computers. So we are known as the clients. Clients are the people or the computers that are connected to the internet that are accessing websites. And the server is the computer that's serving the website. Okay, cool. And how does this work? What is the process in how a server can serve a website to you? Well, this server, which is just a computer that just doesn't have like, pretty little keyboard and a mouse and a monitor, it has a bunch of files in here, and it's connected to the internet as well. This green thing, the green circled one, that's a server. It's connected to the internet as well, and it has a bunch of files in here, maybe like some HTML files, CSS files, maybe it has some Python code in here to do some logic, maybe it has a database, maybe it's a full stack application that's in there. And anytime a certain website is a web address is requested, maybe it has the domain of ESPN.com. So anytime someone requests ESPN.com, this server knows to serve certain page to the client, which is the people or the computers that are connected to the internet that are accessing the website. So what happens in this is there's going to be a request and a response. There's something called the request response cycle. Request response cycle is, okay, what am I? Am I the client or the server? If I'm on the web, if I'm on my browser and I'm trying to get access to a website.
The client.
I'm the client. So I, as a client, good. You guys are doing good in the Zoom chat too. I see you guys participating. You learn 30 to 40% of what you see in here, but more than that if you participate. So good job, everybody. So as a client, I'm a client, I'm making a request on my browser. This is a HTTP request, I guess for ESPN and more secure websites, it's HTTPS with added security. And then, I'm just gonna do ESPN.com. It's still an HTTP request, even if I just type in ESPN.com, because Google Chrome is smart enough to know that, hey, this is a HTTP request. And so that's a request. I'm requesting something from this. This is called a route or address, from this web address or from this route. I'm requesting this particular route, and I get back a response that you see on the browser here with this ESPN.com page. This is the response that you see. And the response is in the form of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So client, that's you and I. And then server, that's like the ESPN.com server that maybe has a database full of scores about the recent basketball games, even though the basketball season is kind of ended already. But, football season is back in town, right? So, recent games, it's constantly updating the database, and it's showing a beautiful page like this with information about previous games and, just some news or, and it's formatted in a certain way. All this content is formatted in a certain way. So there's HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. What does that mean? HTML is the content of the page. For example, the content like this, these scores. You see all these scores right here, or this, all these paragraphs and these headlines. This is the HTML. This is the content of the page, right? Sources: giant to start, price at center versus WFT. What was that? Like, why? I don't know. I don't even know what that is. But that's about basketball. So I don't know. Somebody help me with that. But yeah, whatever the case, go Washington football team. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Oh, that is Washington football. Oh, versus Washington football team. Okay. I got it. I was like, wait, hold on. Is that like a position? Okay, whatever. But that's the content. That's the content. And you see there's like these bullets. So it's bulleted content. It's like in a little list of items. There's some more content here. There's some content right here that's in the format of a button. There's some headers here like Washington football team quarterback, enters blah, 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 right? Cool. There's some pictures. These pictures are also content. These images are also content. So that's the HTML. Do you want to see what this website looks like with just the HTML? Let's take a look. I have this Chrome extension called Web Developer. Okay. If you want this Chrome extension, you can always go on google.com and search Web Developer Chrome extension. And you can click on this and you'll be able to download the same thing that I have. So I'll send you guys this link if you want. It's going to be in the Zoom chat. If you want to, you don't have to. It's completely optional. But this allows me to do some things that web developers like to do. For example, maybe if I want to see this page without the CSS, I can click on here and I can say disable all styles. Hold on, why did that not work? Come on, ESPN. Show me the page with no styles. Where did the content go?
Yeah, nothing.
Okay,
Is this a trick question?
Huh?
Are you really amused, or is this a trick question?
I'm really amused. My extension doesn't work no more.
Oh, okay.
Well, basically, okay. Let's try a different website. Let's do NBA.com. 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 Let's see. Okay. Let it load up. Okay. This, these images and these little content. You see these words. That's content. And I click on this, And then disable all styles. Yeah, it was ESPN. ESPN was acting up. Okay, y'all. Okay, it was ESPN. And that's why basketball is the sport. Okay, that's why I'm talking about basketball.
Yeah.
Okay, so basketball season has
Does
begun.
it default underneath the CSS tab?
Oh yeah, the default, I'm not sure.
But obviously, every time you did that, it went directly to CSS. So
Yeah,
that's where you would do that function.
yeah, you'd have to click on the CSS tab. But if I leave it at cookies, maybe it defaults to cookies. So wherever I last left off.
Okay.
Yeah. And then in this tab, you want to click on the CSS tab and you click disable all styles. Don't try it on ESPN.com because obviously it didn't work on ESPN.com, but any other website it probably works on, you know. So this is what ESPN.com looks like with just HTML. So what do you think the purpose of CSS was?
To take out all the other code and just show you the images.
Almost. I still see the images, but what did it do to these images? If
And enlarge them.
It enlarged it. Okay. I'm gonna put it back to normal.
Animates them?
Almost. It allows, you see how things are like side by side. It formats them. Yeah, you guys are all on the right track. You guys are all on the right track. It animates. I think that's like some Giphies though, but you know, these pictures, even though these aren't animated, they're formatted next to like some words, and then this paragraph is like right underneath this header, and then the date is in the smaller format, right? So, and look at this. We have like all my, it basically arranges my content in different places of the page. Because without CSS, I'm gonna disable all the styles again. And he's just like winking at me like, yeah, you need CSS, young blood. Okay. So look, the game schedule, look at this right here. Game schedule, all these links. What does this look like with CSS? Because this is content right here. And even the images are content. And it says Boston Celtics right here. Brooklyn Nets. Is it really gonna show me all the NBA teams though? Cool. I'm gonna have to scroll forever though. But let me just scroll for a little bit. I gotta catch it up. There you go. Okay. So I go all the way to the bottom. There's, you know, there's more pictures, but what if I want this picture next to another picture? And then I want some pictures on the right side of the page. I want some pictures on the left side of the page, right? Or I want some words to the right side of the page or in the middle of the page. I want something inside of a box with a border. Well, you can do that with CSS. Let me just reload this page. I don't scroll all the way to the top. Started from the bottom, now we're here. Okay, cool. So yeah, this is, now we got the CSS back. Look, it arranges all my content. So HTML is the content, and CSS allows me to style and arrange my content. Okay, so if I were to use a metaphor, okay, if I were to use a metaphor, let's say a human, I am the content. Like I'm a content, but I need to style myself. You know, I need to put some clothes on. You know, get my I can't really style my hair; it's bald. But I got no CSS on my hair. But you know, put on some different color outfits. You know, put on a smile and things like that. That's like CSS. It's like the styling of it, arranging things. Okay. So imagine if you had like a furniture store that you're just putting a bunch of furniture in there. Okay. Let's say you own the furniture store and you just got a bunch of shipments of furniture. And all of this furniture, you're like, okay, I'm just gonna put it inside my store. So I just put all this furniture inside my store and it's just like that. Like I haven't arranged it anyway. I just push it in through the door and just let it be there. That's HTML. The furniture is the HTML. And then when we style that furniture, hey, let's put all the couches over here. Let's put all the desks over here. Let's put all the chairs over here. The, you know, the kitchen stuff over there. That's styling. That's a CSS. So in a website, In a web app, that's the same concept. We're gonna have content, and then we're gonna have a way to style the content. Good. Anyone, please, can you explain me? I'm beginner. Okay, so I see a bunch of questions in the chat. You guys are participating. We good here. Okay, so it don't got no style, great security, great security. Format, yeah, formatting and style the page. I'm just reading out the chat here. Erica said, create rules for where things are placed. Beautifully said. So the content is the HTML. CSS is the things that's going to place the HTML in certain parts of the page, certain locations in the page.
The CSS organizes the HTML.
Exactly, John. Exactly. Well said. CSS organizes the HTML. That's exactly it. And it allows us to format our HTML. Maybe I want to give this my content some background color. And we're going to show examples of that live today. So, welcome. And then I see Hakeem said, anyone please, can you explain me? I'm beginner. Explain what? What do you have a question? Oh, you can hear now. Okay, cool. Hakeem, you can hear. Awesome. So basically, we're just talking about HTML, CSS. You didn't miss too much. HTML is like all these words and pictures. It is like, my English sucks, but all these words and pictures, this is the HTML, and then the CSS arranges it. So if I don't have CSS on this page, this is what this page looks like with just HTML. You see game schedule, news, all this stuff, playoff, we're talking about playoffs, NBA 75, NBA official, all these links.
The data itself.
Yeah, it's the information, the content, exactly. Look what happened to those pieces of information. Look, it arranged them side by side if I have CSS, right? NBA bet. Now everyone's gambling now. I didn't even know that. So the world is a interesting place. All right, cool. So it styles them. Maybe I want all those links to be next to each other. Well, CSS lets it do that. So what does it look like the default style is if there's no CSS? What happens to things? Are they allowed to go side to side, or do they stack on top of one another? It's a stacks. It's a stacks on top of
it. Defaults to the stack.
Yeah, defaults stacking on top of one another. But then imagine like you have a bunch of Lego pieces that are just stacked on top of one another, and then you're like, okay, let me arrange these Lego pieces. That's the CSS. Cool. And then what is JavaScript? Like, okay, I get the HTML and the CSS, but what is JavaScript? Well, JavaScript, let me go back to, let me turn the style back on, put the swag back on this website. Okay, cool. So we got the HTML and CSS. Now, what is JavaScript? JavaScript is the action in the website, the interactivity of the website. What do I mean by interactivity? Well, here's my mouse. You guys see my mouse right here, right? And let's say I hover over schedule. When I hover over schedule, what happens?
EDLB.
Yeah, I get another box. I get more HTML that's formatted with CSS. And check this out. There's even more JavaScript here. If I hover over this part, what happens to the background color?
It gets darker.
It gets a little bit darker, right?
Yeah, it gets highlighted.
Yeah, so there's a JavaScript, something called an event listener. And I don't want to sound like Dr. Evil. I'm just like the laser, shark with lasers. But there's something called an event listener in JavaScript. And there are different types of events that a client can perform. A client is anyone that's using the website. For example, I can hover over something, I can click on something, I can submit a form, I can type on a input. Is there like a search bar? Yeah, right here. Oh yeah, look, when I click on something, what happens? When I click on this little magnifying glass thing, that's another event. So hover over something is an event. So JavaScript is listening for, hey, if you hover over this word store, then pop out this box with a bunch of other words that are formatted like this. And if you hover over any of these words, change the background color of that box that the word is in to something a little bit darker. That's JavaScript. That's the interactivity. So so that's hover, but there's also a click event. where if I click on the search button, convert that part of the page to just this input that allows me to start typing. And when I start typing, it's listening for what am I typing? And as I'm typing, like let's do, let me just search for the greatest basketball player of all time. Kemba Walker. I'm just kidding. Okay, but let's say I search for LeBron James, who is actually the greatest basketball player of all time. Sorry if a bunch of people leave the room because of that. But if I start typing in LEB, right? It knows it's listening. It's as I'm typing. That's called another event listener called on change. As I'm typing on this input, then it's gonna search through the database for anyone named any player that starts with this name, and then it's gonna, yeah, this is the full stack application. Full stack means there's a database involved as well on top of the front end. So maybe it searches through the database on this application and pulls out anyone that starts with LEB and is LeBron James, you know, and it shows that information, and then it shows a bunch of other stuff. So that's JavaScript. So in summary, HTML is the content, CSS is the what?
The function.
Is the is the function that arranges the content.
It's the style. Yeah, it's the styling. It's the formatting, layout.
Like an organizer.
Yeah, organizer, organize, layout, formatting, make things pretty, basically. And then JavaScript is the interactivity, where it's listening for different events that a user can do or a client can do, like hover over thing, like click on something, you know. I can even, you know, start typing. That's like on start typing, when it listens for anyone that's typing to do something. So it'll perform some action. So JavaScript is the action, HTML is the content, CSS is the styling. Any questions so far? Let me see in the chat. Oh, the Flash. That's Dwayne Wade. See that? Iverson, of course, that's the favorite basketball player of all time. Isn't CSS more of an organizer? Yes, CSS is the organizer. So Cipriano, that's correct. I think if you had an example of the two, that would be helpful. Yes, we're gonna have an example. We're gonna build it from scratch with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. What makes a page know the difference between how to load on a PC, phone, iPad, and different size monitors? That's called responsive web design. We teach you that in the first week here. So instead of measuring things by pixels, like let's say I want this page, I want this, you see this background with this image here, right? Let's say I want this image to be 900 pixels, because that's how big my, the width of my computer screen is, 900 pixels long. So I could do that, but on a iPhone, it's gonna look like this, right? Right? So instead of doing it by pixels, let's say, hey, let's just do it by percentage. I want this box to take up 100% of the page on the width, for the width, 100% of the width. Then no matter what the device I'm using, it's saying, hey, just take up 100%. And for an iPhone, 100% was maybe 60 pixels. I don't know how many pixels, but you know, a certain amount of pixels. And for this monitor right here, this big computer monitor, it's, you know, 1,000 pixels, whatever the 100% of the width is. Maybe I want it to be 50%. So use percentages instead of pixels. You guys will learn that.
And that would take place, sorry, that would take place during that handshake between the equipment that you're on communicating with the site.
Yeah, correct. Correct. Whatever equipment that you're on connects to the site. The CSS, the way CSS works, it'll detect what kind of equipment you're on. So it'll say 100% of your equipment, or 50% of your equipment's width.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I see another question. Are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript always present, or do they have to change from programming language to programming language, or is HTML its own language? HTML, you'll always see HTML in some sort of way on a web page. Even if, so in our boot camp, you'll actually learn to build web applications using Python, like using Python as your server that serves up HTML and CSS and JavaScript. Or you could learn how to do it using C# and then a C# application that connects to a database that also serves some HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Or a Java application, right? Who thought JavaScript and Java was the same thing, by the way? That was me when I first learned. I was like, wait,
Yeah.
the same thing, right?
So did I.
But they're different languages. JavaScript is the action of the web page, right? But you can have a Java application that serves up a web page that has HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are more universal, like amongst many different programming stacks and languages can implement HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Can do that. So yeah, HTML is its own language. It stands for Hypertext Markup Language. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. Cool. And yeah, see someone summarized it perfectly. HTML, a structure or maybe like the content. CSS is the visual expression, like the formatting. And then JavaScript is the dynamic. Yeah, making things dynamic based on actions. Dynamic means, hey, when something happens, it's gonna do something unique.
Does that make a stack, or are each individual ones a stack?
A stack consists of, okay, a stack is something that consists of a server-side language like Python, Java, C#. You can even use JavaScript as a server-side language, but I don't want to confuse you guys. But let's say Python, and C#, two different programming languages. So maybe these programming languages are going to be used to handle some logic in our application, like, like if I submit something in the form and I don't have sufficient funds when I'm trying to order something on Amazon, my credit card gets declined, right? That's the logic. Like I'm typing on this form, the form itself is like HTML. Like if I go to Amazon.com, right? If I try to, well, I'm not even signed in, but if there was a form here and I type on the form, or even if I go on the search bar, right? Let's say I search for Chaga. Oh, by the way, fun fact, if you want ultimate focus, this is Chaga mushroom powder, okay? Search for that. Put that in a little bit of coffee and watch yourself be focused, okay? That's so if I search this, so this search bar, this is just HTML, but when I press enter, how does it know to pull up all these examples of Chaga mushroom powder products? Well, that's some type of logic that's involved. That's going to be a server-side language that you're going to learn in your third week in the full-time program. So you're going to learn it with Python. You're going to learn it with Java, C#, things like that. And that's going to be handling the logic where it's going to communicate with the database, and maybe it's going to pull from the database any items in the database that match these keywords, and it's going to give me all this. Oh wow, I'm on what right now? Oh, it's on sale. Hey, it's gluten-free too. But yeah, so that's the logic, and then it's going to show that all that information that comes from the database. Well, it needs to show it like the names of these things. So in the images, that's the HTML, and then it formats these names and images side by side. What is that? What's formatting this side by side? CSS. And then when I hover over this star, it pops out some box. What's that? What's doing that? JavaScript. Cool. Let's see more questions in the chat. Why do we not talk percentage for desktop apps too instead of pixels? You can do percentages for desktop apps too, but we teach web apps in this bootcamp. CS is organized. JavaScript is the dynamicness. Is it possible to take the course in the UK? I think so. I actually, yes, it is. I had a student from the UK 2 months ago. She just had a different time zone though, so her lunch break was a little bit different. Cool. It seems that
Hey, so my question about the pixels and the percentage is, why do we not just talk standard in percentage wise? Why do we use pixels when, like, if everybody uses different monitors and uses either a cell phone or a desktop or whatever, why is it that we talk in pixels at all?
Great question. Great question. That's a very advanced question. For me, what I've realized is that talking in pixels when you're learning something new in the beginning, it helps you to kind of see the proportions a little bit, you know? And then you say, okay, so this is how many pixels it takes for this page. Well, let's just say that, and then you can convert it to a percentage. So it's like a good.
Is there a standard of what you would use as pixels? Because again, everyone uses different monitors. And if you're creating a web page, it depends on how big your web page is. If you have the screen not on full screen and you have it on just like, you know, half of your screen, you're only looking at half of your pixels. So
Yeah.
what is the standard?
The standard is actually to use responsive web design using percentages.
Oh, okay.
But especially nowadays, most people are going to do things in their phones, and their phones are different sizes. You know, you got the iPhone 8, 9, 10, 11, you know, just keeps getting different sizes. So percentages are mostly used, but we're going to talk about pixels. But in the boot camp, in the first couple of days, we can use pixels to get the ball rolling. And then we're going to move to percentages to make it dynamic with any screen size. Okay.
Mhm.
So, cool. All right, is JavaScript used in Flash? Yes. Yes, I think so. Cool. All right, cool. So now you guys know what HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is, right?
Yep.
In general. Now let's actually build something using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay. Cool. So let's do that. And I'm going to use Codepen. Search codependency when I search that. Is it codependent? Okay, cool. It's like psychology and stuff. Okay. So codepen.io, it's an editor, but what you're going to be using as a developer, you're going to be using something like Visual Studio Code. Okay. Visual Studio Code. So this is what, for example, what we do in class. Like this is the said MERN stack. MERN September opens up.
Now we have to pay for these memberships, or are these free, or what?
Free, completely free. F-R-E-E, that is free. Yeah, sorry, I suck at singing, but yeah, it's free. It's completely free. A Visual Studio Code is where I can, like, I can create a folder, I can create a new file. So I can create something in Visual Studio Code. I'll show you guys how I go about something in Visual Studio Code and why I'm going to be using Codepen for this demo. Okay, I'm gonna mute everyone real quick. Everybody in the Zoom chat getting muted. Everybody in the Zoom chat getting muted. But feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question or if you want to respond to some question that I asked. Okay, cool. So let me just open up, like, so you guys know how to create a folder on your computer, right? Right click, and Macs and Windows is a little bit different process, but nonetheless, maybe right click, click new folder. And that's where we're starting at. You guys know how to create a folder on your computer?
Yep.
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 Prerequisite information, that was it. Oh, and you got to know what HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is. But you guys know what HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is now? A little bit. You have to be a little bit more quiet. It's like, yeah, kind of. But that's okay. I'm creating a folder. I'm creating a folder, and let's call this folder, I don't know, Thursday demo. And in programming, it's good to name your folder without spaces. You might name this, if you wanted to name this Thursday demo, you might put a space in between. That's how you did before you became a programmer. But now that you're going to be a programmer, you can say Thursday _ demo. That's how you're going to name things. Okay. Things that you're going to be programming in. You don't have to name everything like that. Like this is LUC collective. This is like some other thing that doesn't have anything to do with programming. But
Can you explain why you use the underscore instead of the space?
Because the space will mess up, it'll mess up some type of routes that we're gonna have in our application. It's more likely to cause some errors. It's kind of hard to explain until we actually see examples of that, but you're gonna have to like go into the terminal and do stuff like this to see why that would be hard. Because for example, let's say I want to go to this public folder. I can type in cd public, or desktop, cd desktop, and if I type in ls, it'll show me all the files and folders in my desktop. But look at what happens if I have a file or folder called iCloud Drive. There's a spaces. I can't just say cd into iCloud Drive. There's two different words. It's gonna be like cd into iCloud or Drive. What are you going to do? So it's like no such file or directory. But in order to cd into iCloud Drive, I have to type in cd and I have to like use these escape characters to say, hey, there's a space. And do you really want to use these escape characters every single time that there's a space, or do you just want to say, hey, I got an underscore? But don't worry about that at all. You won't even need to worry about that for your first 2 weeks in the boot camp. Let's just name things with an underscore for now. Okay, cool. And I'm gonna click on Thursday demo. Okay, cool. And let's say I have this application installed, and you guys know how to install applications. You guys installed Zoom, right? So that's just like installing any other application. So I installed Visual Studio Code, and let's say I open it. And what is Visual Studio Code? It's a text editor. It allows you to edit code, and it supports different coding languages like JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and it gives you shortcuts for it, all different types of stuff. So it's developed by Microsoft, and it's for free. Visual Studio Code, not Visual Studio though, Visual Studio Code. I click on it, and then you guys know how to download things. You just click on the big old download button, right? So I'll send you guys this link too if you guys want. But we're gonna be using Codepen, so you don't have to download anything. But if you just want to download it just to have it because you want to do coding on your own later, feel free to download it. As posted in the chat. Cool. So then you download it. After you follow the installation instructions, you might have this application available. And let's say I right click, click new window. Okay, I opened up an application. You guys know how to download. So you guys know how to create a folder. You guys probably know how to download an application from the internet. Cool, that's part of the prerequisite information that you need to know. And it just opens up like this, and I can click File, Open, and I can look for my folder that I just created, Thursday demo. Click Open. Okay, and let's take a look at this, Thursday demo. Okay, what's inside of Thursday demo?
We have nothing in there, right?
Yeah, nothing in there. We just created a folder, and that folder has nothing in there yet, right? If I can double click on this, it's nothing in this folder. So, and I can basically view the folder contents from here. And I can create a new file in here, just like if I double click on this folder, right click, actually it doesn't let me do new file here, but I can create a new file here, like right click, new file, and I can create an HTML file. Let's call this index.html. You can name it whatever you want. You can name it youngmoneycashmoney.html. It doesn't matter. You can name it whatever you want, whatever makes sense for your application. Okay. And then there's shortcuts available in Visual Studio Code that allows me to do some HTML stuff. Like if I press this exclamation mark and I press tab, it'll give me like a starter code for HTML. And you see, I don't have to type all this. This is saying, hey, look out for all different types of characters. Like those characters that have like the accent over the E, and in some other languages, they might have 2 dots, like Swedish, like there's like 2 dots over like the O, right? So UTF-8 just means more universal characters, except that. This is just some metadata for, just telling it, hey, what kind of device width can we expect, things like that. Don't worry too much about this. The title, what is the title? Let's take a look at that. So I can actually save this real quick. You see this white little dot right there? That means I haven't saved it yet. So I can save that.
And hey, just real quick, I know back in the day, you actually had to physically learn how to type all of that. And it seems like now with all of these new apps, you pretty much have a drop down menu telling it what you want to do, and it puts the code in there for you.
Yeah.
Is that correct? And is that a correct statement?
Yeah. Yeah. Visual Studio Code.
That's what I figured. I mean, it's not like it used to be where you had to type all of that. Now you just pretty much tell it what you want it to do, and it does it for you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's exactly it. And that's the beauty of having a text editor, which is why we're as a student and as a developer, you're going to be using this. But for this demo, I'm going to use Codepen, which does not come with these shortcuts. So I'm gonna have to type everything by hand, which kind of sucks, but that's okay. Let's see, someone says, I don't understand anything. How late am I to this meeting? If you just got here, you're about an hour late. So it's recorded though. So you'll be able to catch up on the recording. No worries. Yeah, oh, cool. Someone just said that. Someone literally just said what I just said in chat. Does knowing hand coding help at all?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like you learn kind of like where it is, but me personally, after hand coding for a little bit, I'm not going to memorize all this. As a developer, you're able to Google things really well. You're able to do a lot of precise Google searches to find the right code snippets that you need for what features you're trying to implement. And that's what we teach you at the bootcamp as well, is to be self-sufficient. Cool. Anyway, so the head, what is this head? So this is HTML. So this first part is just saying, hey, this is going to be an HTML document. So use the rules of HTML when reading this document. That's what it's going to say to the browser. This is saying English. Show this in English. Show this document in English. The head is like the metadata. Like, have you ever gone to Google and like you'll see, let's say if I go to google.com and I search who is the greatest soccer player of all time, right? And some of you guys may have an answer. Google has an answer too. Legend Pele. So Google says Pele, but look at some of this. When these websites, you see these websites have these little titles right here, right? And last updated, some little description. That's called metadata, and that information you can define inside of these. In between the opening and closing head tag. And what do I mean by opening and closing tags? You see how there's like this caret symbol, like, or the less than sign, and then the word head, and then it closes it with a greater than sign. That makes it an HTML. This is an HTML tag, a head tag. Okay. Can I expand this? Like full screen? Oh, oops, that was the wrong button. Full screen? Is that what you meant, Christine? Or is the font size big enough? Can you guys see? Cool. Awesome. So there's the opening and closing head tag. So I'm saying, hey, all of this information is part of it, the head tag. Okay. And there's this meta tag. That means like metadata. And there's this title tag, and anything in between the opening and closing title. How do you know something is a closing tag and an opening tag? Can anyone guess?
Do the dash at the end right there.
This thing right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Yep. So some tags, when you open, if I'm gonna say, hey, let's say I'm typing from scratch, I'm gonna use the caret symbol, and in Visual Studio Code, it shows me all the different HTML tags I have options for. And you'll get to learn these along the way. Like, hey, what is a footer? You can probably already guess what a footer is. But what is the H1? We're gonna talk about that today. Or we're gonna talk about all the H's here, H1 through H6. What is iframe, image, IMG? What do you think this is for?
Inserting an image.
That's for pictures.
Yeah, for pictures, right?
Yeah.
Right, there's OL is for ordered list. Like if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Something numbered list. So you're gonna learn a bunch of these. Table, if you want to build a table. So just from pressing this button, I have all these options available.
Which key are you pressing? Just the
less than symbol.
Okay, all right.
It's where the comma symbol
Yeah, I
is.
was assuming it was that one, but I just wanted to be sure.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then I can type any of these. I can't just type what's that, right? It's gonna be like, what, who this? Like new phone, who this, right? But if I can pick from these though. And let's say I want something called a title. Well, what is a title? Let's cover that. A title, and then I need to close this tag real quick, and it automatically completes this for me. As soon as I press this, it gave me this closing one saying, hey, anything in between the opening and closing, like in this space, is gonna be the title. So what is the title? I'm gonna show you right now. Okay, so I'm gonna save this real quick. I'm gonna right click and click copy path. This is like the path is just like the direction to this particular file on my computer. Or you can even drag and drop it to the browser, by the way. You can just, like if I were to show you how that works. You can drag and drop this file to the browser. So I can just drag and drop it to the browser. And look, what do you think title does? Any guesses?
Creates a title.
Yeah, and where does the title show up?
Oh, in the
On the top of your
in the
tab.
address.
Yeah, it's how you describe your tab.
Yeah.
Amazon described their title with Amazon.com, and then any search term that you searched for. So Amazon.com and then colon, and then it dynamically did that. So it dynamically added the chaga mushroom powder, right? But the Amazon homepage just shows Amazon.com, spend less, smile more. So if I want to make a bootleg Amazon.com, I will say Amazonia.com, spend lesser, buy more, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so this is my bootleg Amazon. And then it's not changed here though. It still says beautiful web page. So I actually have to refresh this. And now it says Amazonia.com, and then spend more, buy more. Amazon formatted there is a little better, but why is mine? It's bootleg, that's why.
No, it's a bit longer, so it's compressing it into the tab.
Yeah.
That's how you won't see it all.
That's what happens when you spend less.
Yeah.
Okay. Almost, yeah, but that's okay. So then we got that, and then you can even put an image here. It's like Amazon got their logo here. We can do that, right? So we can build out our web page. Right now we have, so that's just the head. The head is like the metadata, and also the title goes inside of the head tags. So anything that goes inside of a tag, like how many things are inside of the head tag? How many tags are inside of the head tag?
4.
4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 meta tags and 1 title tag, right? Title. When I say 1 title tag, it comes with the opening and closing. So that's 1 title tag. So I got 4 tags total inside of the head. So the relationship of these 4 tags to the head is their children to the head because they're inside of the head. So if things that are inside of the head tags are children, what do you think this body tag is if it's not inside of the head tag, but it's adjacent to the head tag?
Creates its own entity.
Like siblings. Yeah, it's like siblings. We call it siblings. We actually use these like family relationship words like children and siblings and parent. So head is the parent tag to all these 4 tags, and these 4 tags are children to the head. But the HTML tag and this body tag, right? You see this body tag, it has an opening and closing. I can format it like this. This body tag, it's adjacent to the head tag. When I say adjacent, it's like, it's not inside of the head tag, but the head tag is also not inside of the body tag. So that means they're siblings. So body and head are siblings. What about HTML and head? What's their relationship?
In-laws.
In-laws. Yeah, well, actually, HTML is actually,
Be the parent,
yeah, so good.
the grandparent.
Well, yeah, I guess you could say HTML is like the grandparent of the meta tag, right? But inside of this when I click on this HTML tag in Visual Studio Code, it knows where it'll show me where it closes. So what are children's? Can you tell me the direct children of the HTML tag?
Head and body.
The head, the meta,
Head and body, right?
body.
Perfect. Head and body. Meta is inside of the head though. So I guess meta is,
Grandchildren.
yeah, grandchildren of the head HTML tag. Perfect. Good. We don't usually use grandchildren too much, but you guys are getting the point though.
Red-headed stepchild.
Steps, yeah. I don't know. Maybe this app is a stepchild of Amazon. How about that? Okay, so I got all this. Okay, cool. So we got that, and you can use indentation. You see how I can indent these this way and this way. I can use indentation to visually show the relationships of the parent and children. So I'll say, okay, anything indented one in is children of the HTML. And I got this head, and then the body. So if they have the same indentation level, that means they're what?
Brother and sister.
Yeah, they're siblings. Perfect. Good. Is this recording going to be emailed? Yes, you guys are going to get access to the YouTube video. I'll send you guys the YouTube channel where you'll see it. You'll also see the previous demo where we did a different application. So you'll have two applications. This one, we're going to do like a magic 8-ball game, which is going to be really cool. So it'll all be recorded. Cool. It's all recorded right now. Like, no, what's up? So, okay, so the body, in the body is this, you see this white canvas that we have right here? World is our playground. We can create something here. So there are different types of tags. And when you sign up for the coding bootcamp, you know, this is just one module called Intro to Programming, but it talks about, hey, what is HTML? What kind of tags are there? What is this H1? Well, this is what an H1 looks like, something like this, like the most important header, right? And an H6 is a little bit smaller, right? Paragraph is just like normal text. It looks like this. This ULLI, that's just like a bunch of bullets. So if you want a bunch of bullets, bullet points like dog, cat, dragon, monkey, or for example, on Amazon.com, do they have bullets? Well, they actually do. They just formatted the bullets in a different way, but that's an advanced topic. Let's look at NBA.com.
Question regarding the headers and all of that. I always wondered, how exactly does the computer know that an H1 is going to be this bold text and this size, and HG is supposed to be this type of text and this size? Like, how does it know that? Is it us putting that in, or?
Yeah, the computer does a lot of stuff. Like the creators of HTML, like decided that. So right now, I can determine this. I can change the size of my H1s though.
Through CSS, right?
Exactly. There
Yeah,
we go.
but if we didn't want to do that, and like, okay, so if we're just creating a basic web page and all of that, and we're doing a H1 header and all of that, but I didn't like how I think it's a little too small, and I'm trying to make it big and try to create a pizzazz. Do I have to have CSS, or is there a way to? Oh, okay, gotcha.
Because look at this NBA page without CSS. It's like, well, I want these links to be a little bit bigger, but
yeah,
too bad. You need CSS, right? It's like, or I want these links to be next to each other. Well, that's too bad. You need CSS. Like, oh, this image. Actually, I could actually format this image a little bit different size if I want to, using just HTML.
with pixels, yeah.
Yeah, width and height. But in most of the cases, if you want to style your HTML without CSS, that's too bad. You need CSS, right? Cool. So, all right, cool. All right, so now let's take a look at what an H1 looks like. And in the learning platform, this is called the learning platform, where you can go here. Let me just duplicate this. this is like the MERN stack where you learn React, JavaScript, and some functional components. You build this thing, have all these features, all this cool stuff. So this is like the learning platform. And if I go to here, dashboard, there's all these different courses, HTML, CSS. You get access to all this stuff when you sign up as a student. And it comes with learning content like this, where all the content that you need to learn is organized in the order that you want to, that is most ideal to learn it in. So we're going to learn it from HTML, and let's see, let's test out some of this, and then we're going to go on Codepen and we're going to build something out. Okay. So H1, what does the H1 look like? And it shows something like this. I'm like, okay, I could try to copy this, or I could write my own. Let's do H1 bootleg Amazonia. The world awaits nobody. I don't know. I'm just writing some random stuff here. Okay, cool. And let's just see what this page looks like. I just saved my file here, but it's not here. What do I got to do to this page?
Got to refresh it.
Or copy paste.
Yeah, I got to just refresh it.
Yeah.
Cool. Bootleg Amazon. So this is what H1 looks like. So what do you think an H2 would look like?
A little bit smaller.
Yeah, slightly smaller.
Awesome. So, and notice I don't have to start with this caret and do all this every time. If I know I'm about to write an H2, I can just start typing H, and it'll be like, here are all the things that start with H. And if I just type in H1 and press tab, it'll just auto-complete my opening and closing tags, because it knows, Visual Studio Code knows, hey, you need an opening and closing tag to define the boundaries of your H1. But I'm going to make an H2 though. So let's say H2 and press tab and say, this is a little bit less, well, this is a little bit smaller than H1. So in order to modify these, I guess there are some limited options. Like you have H1 through H6.
There it is. Huh?
It's a little bit smaller. And then let's take, you can even do H3, even smaller. Like that, right? And you can go all the way down to like H6. Visual Studio Code will tell you like what are the H's that are involved. H6, and I'll say smallest. And this is called a header tag. And then boom. And it's kind of like, it's still a little bit bold, these header tags are a little bit bold, like, hey, this is still important information. I know it's small, but it's like Pistol Pete. It's like, yo, I know I'm small, but I can pack a punch. I got some important information here. Okay, so these are a little bit bold, but if you just want regular text, it's going to be like a paragraph tag. If I just type in P and press tab, I can say this is a paragraph tag. And then I'm gonna save my file, and I gotta refresh this. And look, it's just regular font.
Yeah.
And let's take a look at NBA.
How are you quick saving that?
How am I quick saving? Oh, Command S.
Yeah.
And then you're just dragging it to your
or Control S if you're on a Windows.
Oh yeah, on Windows it's Control S. So let's say I type something, paragraph tag, like that. Right, and then you see this white circle, that means it's not saved yet. So I can save it doing this way, like the way that we've always known before. File, save. I could do that and it'll work too. But if you want the shortcut, it'll actually show you here. The shortcut to file save is
right.
On me, I'm on a Mac.
As far as inside of your app and then getting it to the web page.
Oh yeah, you drag and drop it to the browser.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. You can also right click on here and click copy path, and then it'll give you, and then paste that path. And that's the path from your computer's main directory all the way to where this file resides. It resides on my desktop, Thursday demo, index.html. Cool. Okay, cool. So we're running a little bit behind on time now, but that's okay. This is HTML. So, there's paragraph tag. You can even build like a table. If I type in table and press tab, I can do like table And guess what? I don't memorize things, so I'm just gonna look up things. This is what you're gonna do. In the industry, like when I was working at CollaboraLink, when I was working at Oracle, 35% of my time was spent coding. Another like 30% of my time was spent Googling. Another 30% of my time was spent debugging errors. Okay, so I'm gonna say HTML table. If you search this, there's this wonderful website that has examples as well. And you can look, if you want to create a table like this, click try it yourself. And then it gives you even some styling. Just not worry about the style, but you can see what a table needs. It needs a table row for these. You see, this is the row right here that contains the headers for the table. And then these table rows are like the data, like these ones, starting with Alfred, right? So you see this first row, that's like the table header row. So in order to specify a table row, I'd use TR, press tab, and press enter. So TR is what to the table? What is the relationship of the TR to the table?
Is that like a sibling?
TR, well, is it adjacent to the table or is it inside of the opening and closing tags?
It's
Inside.
so it'd be like the child.
It'd be a child. Good, it's a child. So this TR is a child. So that means this TR stands for table row. This table row is going to be part of the table. It's going to be inside of the table. Okay, so that's kind of like right here. You see this, you see how there's this table right here, and this table row that contains company, contact, country, it's inside of the table as the first row. So this is our first row that we have. And this row has an opening and closing saying, hey, what is inside of this row? Like what is within this row? That's going to be inside of this opening and closing. So maybe inside of this row, there's this tag called TH, which represents table header, which makes something look a little bit more bold. Okay, so TH, and maybe I'll have something like name, TH, and then, you know,
Number.
yeah, name, let's say points per game. Let's do like ESPN now, switch it up. Points per game, TH, let's say is greatest of all time. Okay, so we have a table with how many rows do we have in this table?
3.
Almost. It's actually one row. See,
Oh,
this
my bad,
table row
yeah.
is the opening and closing, and inside of this table row, we have 3 table headers. So that means here's one table row, and then there's 3 table headers. Country, contact, and company are 3 table headers. Let's see what that looks like. Cool. It doesn't look like it has anything around it because it doesn't have any CSS. In order to have borders, I need to have CSS, and we'll talk about that later. Okay, cool. So we got that going. All right, so then I can have another table row for all the data. Let's say I have 4 different players. How many more table rows do I need to create?
4.
4, because I'm going to put 1 for each player. And for each player, I need to specify how many pieces of information about each player do I need to specify?
3.
3. I need to specify their name. So that's called table data, TD. And let's say LeBron James, TD. And let's say 27.7. I don't know. That sounds like LeBron James number. And then another TD is greatest of all time. True. Right? Cool. Let's see what we got here. Cool. And it's not for, it looks kind of, it doesn't look very pretty, right? It's not formatted nicely. But it says LeBron James for name, 27 points per game. True. Okay, let me add another player. So I need to add another table row. I need to add another row. So I can just copy this, right? Or so each of these rows, the first row contains these 3 pieces of data: the name, points per game, and is greatest of all time, right? It contains these 3 pieces of data. The second row, this table row that opens and closes in line 22 and 26, that contains 3 pieces of data for the actual information for name, points per game, and greatest of all time. Let's create another table row, TR, And then I'm gonna create a table data. Let's do, give me another player. Give me a player in the chat.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan. Cool. Michael Jordan. And then another TD. What do I need to specify for this table data? I specified the name. What do you think the next thing I need to specify?
Points per game.
Points per game. Good. Points per game. And it was like 35 or something. I don't know. It was like,
Yeah. And real quick, when you hit enter, is that going to just automatically transfer your last type as far as TD, or how does it know to do the TD again versus you going back to TR or whatever?
Oh, okay. If I do TD and I press tab, it's a tab.
Okay, so you're doing it each time. Okay.
Each time I type in TD and I press tab. And then what's the last piece of information I need to fill out?
You're the greatest of all time. True or false?
All right, cool. And
It's a unanimous true right there.
all right, I'm just gonna go with true. All right, fine,
Okay.
I'm gonna go with true. Fine. I mean, look at that points per game. Okay, cool. So now I'm gonna save it, and then there's another table row, right? If you guys want another table row, well, that was a lot of typing, right? Well, I'm just gonna copy this table row, and I'm gonna paste it right here, and I'm gonna save it. And I got 2 Michael Jordans now, right? But let me just fill this in with someone else. Let's do. So we're going modern school, old school, new school. That's just the basketball term, okay? So Luka Doncic, points per game is like 27 as well. And no, he's not, but he's too young. He's 19 years old, so we don't, actually he's like 21, but press enter. Now it changes to Luka Doncic. Okay, cool, we got a table. And now I want to put some styling on it. I want to do different things. That's going to be CSS, and I can attach a CSS to this. But let's pivot into Codepen. Let's pivot into Codepen, where we can I can actually send you guys this code, and you can play around with it and with the video. Okay. Cool. But any questions so far on the HTML? How this is working?
No, actually, the more you're progressing, like it's becoming more understandable. Like it's becoming a little more easier to understand what you're doing.
Okay, good. And we can see all different types of different HTML things that are available. Like let's think of the learning platform, right? We can make an unordered list, right? Or an ordered list, things with numbers. We can even have links. And notice do you see the opening and closing? So for this UL, that stands for unordered bullet list or unordered list. That's like bullet list. And what are the things that are going to be part of my bullet list? So each item is going to be determined by LI. Each bullet is in opening and closing LI. So dog, right? So let's do that. There's another tag called HR. If I just press tab, it actually does not have an opening or closing tag. It's just one tag, and it stands for horizontal
row.
Yeah, it's like a horizontal row, like some like line break. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, I'm gonna refresh it. See that? See that little line break that came?
When you hover over there, is that the description or the definition of what it is when you?
Yes. Yeah, good. Because in Visual Studio Code, it's a perfect place to code because you can also learn along on the fly. Okay, this is what this is. And it pulls from the internet. And this is free. You can get this for free. It's a free software that you can use. So let me put this horizontal row. I put this horizontal row inside of this table earlier. It was right here. It was inside of the table. So that's why we saw, and I put it inside the table. That's why we saw it inside of the table here. But if I want it underneath the table, I'm gonna put it outside the table underneath the closing table tag, meaning, hey, after the table has finished, now let me get a horizontal line here. Now it's over here underneath the table. And then maybe I'll have a unordered list. Maybe I'll have a H3 and I press tab, and there's an opening and closing. It'll say greatest meals of all time. Now you guys can tell me your favorite meals here. Right now it just says H3. It's just an H3, greatest meals of all time. But I want this horizontal row to be before it. So I'm gonna, because I don't want this horizontal row to be, I want this horizontal row to be right after the table ends. So did that. Cool. And I'm gonna actually minimize this a little bit, not minimize it, but make it so that we can see everything here. And in Codepen, we'll be able to see everything together, but we'll work on it a little bit. Greatest meals of all time. And I can do a unordered list. If I type in UL, that means unordered list. That means there's gonna be bullets. And what's gonna be part of this unordered list? It's gonna be a bunch of bullets. And each bullet is represented by LI, meaning like a list item. Now give me your favorite meals of all time.
I'm gonna say sushi just for the heck of it.
Okay, sushi. Sushi, give me another. So let's see what sushi looks like. Okay, sushi. Okay, and then so if I want to create another bullet as part of this series, this unordered list of bullets, I'm gonna put it as another child inside this UL tag. And yeah, I see milk steak. I've never heard of that before, but okay, let's go with that. Milk steak. I don't know if that was
Shake.
oh, milkshake.
Typo.
I was like, milk steak. What is that? Is that like that's real grass fed right there? Okay, milk steak. All right. Okay, milkshake. This is the milkshake. And as you can see, my milkshake brings all the bullets to the
Yard.
list, and I'm like, okay. So there we go. And then I can do another LI. Let's do steak, a Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. Sheesh. Okay. All right. Philly cheesesteak. What? Egg? They have that? That's amazing. Okay. Interesting. I'm gonna save that, and I got 3 different things here now. Cool. Right. And if I wanted to make this an ordered list where it give it numbers, I would just change this UL into an OL. And now it'll change it to 1, 2, and 3.
Nice.
Cool. Awesome. So let's pivot out of this. I'll send you guys this on Codepen as well, if you guys want to play around with this. But let's go straight into Codepen, and I'm gonna look in the chat because I still have a bunch of questions that I didn't get to answer. I see, can we reach out to you with questions at the end of the session? Yes, yes, you can. Live server is great in VS Code too. Yep, I see someone has some programming background. Okay. Cool. Cool. On my web, okay, cool. Let's see. Cool. Where are you dragging, dropping to update the web page? I'm just dragging this name of the file into the browser where the tabs are. And then anytime I update something, like let's say I put what's up everybody. And just because I saved this file, let's say I saved this file, that doesn't mean I'll see it say what's up everybody right here. It just says what's up still. But if I need to refresh this page, so I need to click on this web address bar and refresh, or you can click on this refresh button right here. And then now it updates. So that's to answer that question. Chicken tikka masala, yep, I feel that. What is the typical average class size? It's about like 25. Smaller than this class. Half the size of this class. How about that? Cool. All right, cool. So let's move on to Codepen. Let's introduce CSS. Let's do all that good stuff. Okay, because this is, I mean, I don't know about you, but this looks like 1990, right? So we're gonna put some CSS. I'll send you guys this code later. I'm gonna minimize this for now. I'm gonna maximize this, and I'm gonna open up this tab here. It says codepen.io. Let me log in real quick. Log in with my GitHub. Cool, authorize Codepen. Cool, we are in here. So all you need, you can log in through Facebook too, by the way. So if you have a Facebook, you can log in through your Facebook. Or you can just create an account for free. It's completely free, Codepen, okay? So now what I can do is I can start coding on this live, and I can actually share this. I can actually share this to you guys. I'll send this out to you guys at the end. I usually use Visual Studio Code because that's what we usually use. Okay, so HTML, we can put all our HTML here from our previous file. So let's say I have all this stuff, right? I can just copy all of this. I select everything and just copy. That's Command C, or you could just, you know, right click, copy or something. And then I can paste it. I can right click and click paste, or you could just do Command V or Control V. And then look, we can see it right here. And here it's actually even nicer because it updates live. So I'll say Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. But the bad thing about it is if I type in LI, it's like, LI what? What you want? Like who this? And I'm like, okay, you don't do the same thing as Visual Studio Code, where if I type in L, you know, if I start typing, it'll show me, oh, everything that starts with L. Oh, everything that starts with LI, right? In Visual Studio Code, that's why we use it, right? But in Codepen, it doesn't have that. I have to actually manually type hard, you know, almost like, I'm gonna say handwrite. That's like the modern day handwrite. /LI. I have to like make the closing tag myself, and I have to like press tab. It's kind of annoying. It's gonna take.
Are we using Codepen, or what we'll be using for the class once we start?
Visual Studio Code.
Okay.
And at the job, also Visual Studio Code.
Got it.
But for a demo, to make it easy for new developers to learn how things are going without me refreshing the page every single time, Codepen.
Got it. So we can use both without trying. We're not going to confuse ourselves by if we're playing with both, right?
Yeah. I just copied and pasted my Visual Studio Code here.
Nice.
This for CSS and JavaScript.
Yeah, and they have a part for CSS and a part for JavaScript. In Visual Studio Code, I would create a CSS file in this folder, and then I would have to link it with this HTML, which you'll learn on your second day in the boot camp. Your whole first day is actually just pure HTML. And then second to your fourth day is all CSS. And then JavaScript is for like the rest of the week, and then all of the second week. So that's the first 2 weeks. So it's going to go really deep dive into these concepts. I'm just doing like 2 hours of everything, right? So, so CSS. Let's talk about CSS. Let's make it so that we have this website. So as you can see, it automatically updates as I type stuff, right? Let's say I have another bullet, right? Number 4, right? It automatically updates as I'm typing. Look at where it says number 4, and it'll show you as I'm typing. Like, for me, anyone from Nepal, anyone know what Momo is? You see, it's just automatically updates. But that's basically dumplings. I love dumplings. That's my thing. Okay, cool. So it updates as I'm typing, like greatest meals of all time. You know, if I put exclamation marks, it just updates automatically right here. Awesome. There you go. I'll send you guys this Codepen link in a little bit, but let me duplicate this tab. In order to duplicate a tab, by the way, just right click on the tab and click duplicate. And now I'm in this tab again. It's about a 2-minute thing. I don't got 2 minutes. Okay, so hello world. What you mean? Wait, what? Wait, something's starting to type for me already. Why is that? Yo, I don't need a tour. Oh my goodness. What's going on? Help! Somebody. Why is it doing this? Stop that. If anyone knows where that help is from, that's from Dave Chappelle, by the way. Okay, cool. Okay, you saw what just happened right there, right? That just like change all the styling and everything. Why is the hello world still here? I'm not saying hello to nobody. Goodbye. Wait, okay.
It's the welcome start.
I'm
Give you the
gonna press,
walkthrough.
yeah, I'm gonna press X. I think it's because I pressed let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna press X. We're not going nowhere. Okay. Okay, so now let's build out something where it's like a website that has HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Let's talk about another tag that we haven't talked about. And I'm just gonna start with the body. We don't really care about this metadata about like what the tab should be look like, right? It's Codepen, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm just gonna call it body. I'm gonna open up a new tag that says body. Body just represents everything that goes inside of our page. And then I need to tell it it's a closing tag for the body. How do I say that?
It's
The dash
/
front.
Perfect. So now my body starts here and it ends here, and anything inside of here is, you know,
context.
yeah, my content, like, you know, all this stuff that you see in this white screen right here, underneath the web address bar right here, right? That's the body. Cool. Just like here, we had our body starting from here, right? Cool. And now we got our body right here, Codepen. And let's say there's another tag I wanted to tell you guys about. It's called a div. A div is like, think of it like a container where I can put a bunch of stuff in. Like, let's say I wanted to put, you see like these two headers. What if I wanted to put them in a container and then just style that container that they both belong to? So okay, think of it like as a box. A div is like a box that has no dimensions, meaning it has no height and no width and no borders until I give it that. So I'm gonna create a div and let's see what it looks like if it's just a div without any CSS. Okay, so I'm gonna create a div. Well, there's also a tag called header. Let me use another header. It's not like an H1 or H2. There's an actual tag called header, which allows me to put something towards the top of the page. It's just another box, basically. It has an opening and closing tag, and I'm going to tell it what to have inside of this header. Maybe I'll have an H1 that says, you know, magic 8 ball, and close H1. Cool. Magic 8 ball. Cool. We got magic. It's just a H1 that says magic 8 ball. But let's say I can have multiple things inside of this thing called header. Like maybe I'll even have a paragraph tag saying, this is guessing, or not guessing. Imagine, you remember those games when like you shake up this ball, you ask a question like, hey, you know, who's gonna win the World Series? And you shake this little ball and it'll like give you like a random answer from a list of potential answers.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I remember that. Yeah, Magic 8 Ball toys.
Yeah, Magic 8 Ball toys. So we're gonna make one of those, okay? So this is a Magic 8 Ball game, okay? And then I'm gonna close my paragraph tag. So I got both of these. I got both of this H1 and this paragraph tag inside of this thing called header, which is basically just like a box, okay? But this box, it'll stretch to the content that I give it. So if I don't have any content into it, it has no height. But if I give it some content, it has the height of however much content I give it. And now let's say I wanted to style everything inside of this header. I want it to be a certain color. I can say that because if I want this H1 and this paragraph tag to be inside of a blue box, I don't have to separately style this H1 and this paragraph tag blue. I could just put them both inside of a div or a header. This is a header, but we can also say divs. This is a div. You can also call it div, like a little box. And I can style that box, and then everything inside the box will be blue. Because what if I want this H1 and this paragraph tag to be blue? I don't have to select the H1 and paragraph tag and say, hey, make this one blue and make this one blue. I'll say, hey, make the box that they're both in blue. But in order to identify this div, I need to give it, I can either give it an ID for an identification, or I can give it a name, like a class name. So you use the word class is equal to, just think of it as me trying to give it a name to this div. I'm giving it a name. hey, this box's name is header. Sure, let's call it that. Okay. And then in the CSS, I want to make this box a certain color. So what, yeah, I almost gave it the answer right. Okay, ignore I said that. But okay, I just have content right now, but what if I want to make it a certain color in the background? I want to style it. What language I'm going to use?
CSS.
CSS.
Perfect, cool. So CSS, and I want to select this box. And what is the name of this box? This div is a box, but what is the name of this box? I gave it the name header. Perfect.
Header.
So I can select something with the name of header, and if it's a class, and we'll, you guys will have a whole week of learning about this. I'm going to use a dot and then curly brace, and then opening, closing curly brace. I'm going to use dot header. I'm going to tell it the name of the thing that I want to edit the style of, and I can give it different properties like background dash color. And in Codepen, it doesn't autocomplete, but in the Visual Studio Code, if I click new file, let's call this style dot. You can name it whatever you want. You can call it Young Moolah, Cash Moolah, if you want. Style.css. Let's say I did dot header, and it gives me a bunch of options available for CSS things like border radius, background color, background image, border color, border left, border width, border style, border collapse, bunch of stuff. Look at all this stuff. So that autocomplete is there, and then I can say background color, and it gives me a bunch of colors to choose from. And I can even pick colors that aren't here by, like, if I click on a color and then I hover over the color, I can I'm like, oh, I like this, and maybe format it like this a little bit. Okay, like that. Cool. And then it gives me like the code for that color. That's Visual Studio Code. That's why the programmers actually use Visual Studio Code. So let's say I wanted that color, I can just copy this, right? Or I could just write generic colors like blue. So look, now I didn't have to select the H1 and the paragraph tag individually. I mean, I could have, and they both would be blue, but what if I wanted them both to be inside of a box that was blue? That's why I put them inside of this thing called a div. A div is just a box that I can put things inside of. Okay, and now it's blue. Cool. Okay, cool. Let's see. Okay, cool. So now, what we can do? I'm gonna actually create inside of the body. I'm gonna create a div that is a big box that's gonna have everything inside of it. Let's just call this container. So div class is equal to container. And then I'm going to close it here. And I'm going to do indentation so it's easier to look at. So we can see this container div has, so this box has a box inside of it called the header, and the header has the H1 and the paragraph tag. But the container, I can give it like, I can also style the container. So in order, I named the box container, I can say dot container, and I can give it like a height, I can say min height is equal to 700 pixels. And you're not really going to see anything because this box has no color or border, so it's just going to see white. So let me give this thing that has 700 pixels color. Let's say background color, green. This is going to look pretty bad, but cool. So I have this container box that contains a box inside of it. This blue box is inside of the container box. If I want this blue box, I'm going to draw here real quick. So right here is this whole part, include the green and the blue, okay, is my container, but the blue box is on top of that green part at the top of this container. So it looks like the green ends right here, but actually the green box is if I were to change, if I were to not give this header any background color, you'll see that the green box is actually containing everything, right? But this header box has no formatting anymore. It doesn't have any code. So I can tell it, hey, give it a background color of blue. And now that should happen. Why is that happening? Wait, well. Let's break it. What happened? Why is it not doing that anymore? Do I have to refresh the page? Okay, cool. I had to refresh it. Okay, cool. And what if I wanted this blue box to have some space outside of it? Well, some space outside of it, if I wanted this blue box to have some type of space outside of it, it's called a margin. So I can give it something called a margin. And if I want this blue box to have some space at the top of it, I can do margin top. And I can say, I can give it in pixels, like 10 pixels. And let's see what happens. Margin top. Or maybe I want this container to have some padding. So you see this green box, maybe everything that's inside of it, it can't touch the edges of the container, the inside edges. Like the inside edges need to be respected. So this container can have padding inside of it. Padding, let's say it's 10 pixels. So this is what happens when I give it 10 pixels of padding. And why is the header have extra cushion here? Cool. And if I want, you see how this magic 8-ball word is like, it's kind of too close to the inner boundaries of this blue box. So maybe I want this blue box to have some padding so things can't touch the edges of this blue box. So the blue box, what's the name of my blue box? Header. Cool. So I'm going to target the header here and I'm going to give it some padding. Padding. And let's say I also give that 10 pixels. And look, now the blue box has some space, some cushioning around it. Cool. And let's say I want, yeah, maybe I want some more padding for this. Let's see what 50 padding looks like, 50 pixels. Now there's even more cushion around the edges, inside edges. You know, like when you get a package, in the inside there's padding sometimes. So that means whatever content you have inside the package can't touch the inside edges. Think of it like that, that's padding. Cool. Okay, cool. And let's say I wanted to do more things like I can give the header, so I gave my header some type of background color. I did that. Container is this green box that contains everything. Okay, I gave that a background color and it has some padding. So any boxes or any content that I put inside of the green box will not touch the edges of the green box either. Even this blue box called header can't touch the edges of this green box because this green box called container has padding of 10 pixels around all sides. Now, if I want 10 pixels in the top and bottom, and then 20 pixels on the left and right, I can say 10, and then let's say 25 pixels on the left and right. Let's say 25 pixels. So now you see on the left and right, there's extra padding, but on the top and bottom, on the top, there's less padding. And on the bottom, there's already more padding. I mean, it looks like there's a lot of padding, but it's not. It's just this box is not big enough, this header box. I can give this header, I can make this header box bigger by giving it a min height is equal to, 300 pixels. And it's bigger now, right? Cool. So I can do that. So that's CSS. I'm arranging the content. Cool. And let's do some more stuff. I can do something like maybe maybe what if I want like another box here? Like, what if I want like, you know how some websites, they have like a little navigation like side right here, a little box right here, and then like a main content box right here. Right,
Yeah.
maybe I want this header to be smaller. Maybe I'll make this header like only this big, and then this main content would be like this big right here. Yeah, we could do that. So let me give this header a smaller padding. Let's say 20 pixels. Okay, so now this header is a little smaller. Let's make it even smaller, like 10 pixels padding. Cool. We do 5 pixels padding. Cool. Okay, cool. So now this header is a little bit smaller. And let's say I want a box inside of the container, but not inside of the blue box. So where would I put it then? If I want it inside of the container, but not inside, it's not inside of the blue box though. Where would I put the, would I put it inside of the header or inside of the container?
Is it the header?
Well, if I put it inside of the header.
Oh wait, it'd be in the
inside
blue
of
box. So the container.
Inside of the container, because let's say I want a box like right here.
Mm-hmm.
Right here. Sorry, that drawing was bad. Hold on. Let's say I want it like right here. So that looks like it's gonna be it's gonna be a child to the green box, right? Because it'll be inside the green box, but it'll be siblings to the blue box. Okay, you can do that too. And so it won't be inside the header, it'll be siblings to the header because the header is the blue box. And I can even make comments on my code like, things like, this is how you make comments. And then this is the symbol. You got to do open caret, exclamation mark, dash, dash. And then whatever comment you want, like, this is the blue box. Let me put this comment right here, actually. This is the blue box. So it says, this is the blue box. And then maybe I'll copy this real quick. This is the green box. Container is the green box. So this is just a comment. A comment is, it's not going to show up on the web page. It's just a comment for me to kind of know, hey, what is this code doing? Just for the developer to know. Cool. Ed said text align center. Yeah, we could do that for the header. Text align. Let's see what that does. Ooh, look at that. Right? It makes, so I'm saying for the header, all the text that goes inside of it, align the text center. Kind of like in Microsoft Word. I don't know if you guys have ever played around with Microsoft Word, you know, text align center, similar to that.
So I was wondering, could you also add, I'm sure you could you add padding to the text instead of centering it? Because it seemed like it was too close to the border of the blue box. So I was just wondering, is there a way to move it over just a few without obviously centering it?
Yeah.
Moving it to the right. Well, even if to the right, it would still then be too close to the edge. So is there padding for text? I'm sure
Yeah, there is. Yep.
Okay.
You can select the H1 and the paragraph tag. I can even say, hey, just select the H1 and give it some padding. But then if I have a bunch of H1s, this is going to select all the H1s. So I need to identify this H1 by giving it a name. And I can give it a name by using either ID or class. And that's too nuanced of a term for, you know, first 2-hour introduction class. So let's just use the word class here for now. And H1, let's just say I give the class like 8 ball. I should name my classes with no spaces, by the way. So 8 ball. Header. And I can say dot 8 ball header. Actually, it doesn't like dashes. Let's do underscore. 8 ball header. 8 ball header. And maybe I just want this H1 to be a different color or something. I could do background color yellow. Why did that not work? 8 ball header. Is that what I need? 8 underscore ball underscore header.
Is it because in the CSS it's a, oh, never mind. In CSS you can do a dash.
Yeah, color is just a font color. But even that's not working. So dot, maybe it doesn't like the numbers. So let's call this header text. Let's call this header text. Maybe it doesn't like the number in the class name. Cool. Yeah, it doesn't like numbers in the class name. That number 8, it didn't like it. So I named this H1 header text, and I'm saying, hey, select the thing that's named header text and give it color yellow. Color means the font color. Background color means this. Background color, purple. This is gonna look pretty ugly, but cool. And notice the space of this H1, we didn't really see it. We thought it just started from M and ended at L, right? But the H1, each HTML element takes up the whole width of the page. So if I wanted this magic 8 ball to be right next to this paragraph that says, this is magic 8 ball game, let me give this paragraph I can also give it an ID to identify it as well. Let's say it's called, paragraph though. I don't know. I'm gonna name it something. I'm gonna call it, you can name it whatever you want. And to select an ID, you use the hashtag. So paragraph though, select something that has the ID of paragraph though, and give it a background color of green. So you see, each HTML element by default, it takes up the whole width of the container that it's in. But how come the width, it didn't go all the way to the edge of this inside edge of this blue box? How come it didn't go to the inside edge of this blue box?
Because you coded padding into the HTML?
Good, yeah. The blue box, I said, hey, this blue box has to have padding. But by default, because I gave it padding, this space had to be respected right here, this space right here. Right, you see that space that was respected? There's a little bit of blue right here. That's like 10 pixels or 5 pixels, whatever padding I gave it. So I gave padding to the header box, which is this div called header. And I gave it padding of 5 pixels. But if I didn't give it 5 pixels padding, right? Let's say I didn't give it any padding. Look, it takes up the width of the whole box, the whole header box. Now you can't even see the header box because the two things inside of the header box have a different color, so it covers up the header box. But if I give the header box some padding of 5 pixels, now it has to respect the space at the top and the bottom and all this stuff. Now let's make it so that the magic 8 ball box and this magic 8 ball game box can be, if I want it to be next to each other, they can be. So I can say, hey, everything inside of this blue box is allowed to, cannot take up the whole space of the blue box. So anything inside of this blue box called header, I'm saying, hey, all the things inside of this blue box are not allowed to take up the width of the whole box. Does anyone know what that is? Anyone in the background? The display property. So display flex. So now they can be next to each other. But I don't know about that. I just wanted to show you what that was. I just wanted to flex the flex, but display the flex, or flex the display. I don't know. But let me get rid of that. I actually want it to be like this. But okay, cool. I got that. And let's say I want, let's go back to right here. let's go back to right here. Let's say I want like a box right here, like maybe like a red box, and then another box right here. Okay. So I'm gonna, in order to create a box, what's the keyword in HTML to create a box?
The div.
Div, cool. So I'm gonna clear my screen. So I'm gonna create 2 more boxes that are gonna be inside of this big green box, but siblings to this blue box. Okay. So I can do that. So it's gonna be inside of the green box. The green box is a container, but not inside of the header box. I don't like how. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and create another div. Class is equal to, and this one, maybe it's gonna be like, nav, let's call this nav, like navigation. And then it has a closing. So this is going to be another box, but a box by default, it has no color, it has no height, and it has no width. So you're not gonna see this nav box at all. And I need to give it some height and width and things like that, right? So let me do that. So maybe I'll say, and I need to, let's give it some content, like this nav box. It's just an empty box, so you're not going to see it yet. It has no color or dimensions. But let me give it like some links, like unordered list, which we went over. That's like those bullets. And then it'll say like li, closing li. You can see why I prefer Visual Studio Code, right? And then maybe it'll say, what are some navigation things, like go home, right? Home, about, something like that, right? There's home, there's about, there's contact us, something like that, or more info. Home, about, more info. Cool. And it doesn't look like it's inside of a box though, because this nav box, it doesn't have any color. So it's just like a transparent box inside of this big green box. So it looks like we don't see anything at all. But I can give this nav box a border and see what it looks like. I can select this, I can target this nav box by saying .nav. So anything that has the word class is going to use a dot to target it, and dot and whatever the name of it. And I can say border is equal to 1 pixel. Let's say it's a 1 pixel thick border, solid black. Cool, you see that? Now we got this black border right here. And what if I wanted this box to be a different color? I could do that as well. But you see how this border touches the outside edges of the blue box? Well, if I want the outside edges to be respected, so padding is to respect the inside edges, like how this blue box inside edges has some padding so that anything inside of it can't touch the inside edges of the blue box, right? But if I want the boxes to have spacing in the outside of its borders, it's called margin. So I can say this, let's say this box, this blue box can have a margin bottom. So blue box is the header box. Header is the blue box. I could say margin bottom. And then let's say it's like 10 pixels. You see that? Now the outside edges of the blue box is respected.
Question, would it have been different if we had done the margin bottom padding 10 pixels onto the top of the nav box? Or would it just be the same outcome?
It's like the same outcome, yeah.
Okay, great. So either or.
Yeah, either or. But let's say I had this, I have this blue box, right? But let's say I wanted this, oops, my drawing messed up. Let's say I wanted like 2 boxes underneath this blue box, like one right here, and then another one right here. that was like this. So I could affect the margin of, let's name this box, box X and box Y. Okay. And then I could, and let's call this blue box, box Z. I could affect the margin top of X and margin top of Y to be 10 pixels to have the space here. Or I could just affect the margin bottom of the blue box to be 10 pixels. So it'd be a little bit less coding, if that makes sense. All right, so all right, let me this green background is kind of bothering me. Let me just make it like gray or something. Container. Right. Okay, cool. Sorry, my eyes were like hurting. Even this blue is kind of hurting me. Let's pick up some other color here. I can hover over this. A little darker blue. And when I click on this, it also gives me a color code for a color. I don't have to say blue, yellow. I can be more specific, like RGB, blah, blah, blah. This is also a color. So I can say RGB, blah, blah, blah for, let's say this blue box, which is the header. Cool. Here we go. Cool. Let me just mute everybody real quick. Just unmute yourself if you have a question. Cool, we got that. And we got this box, this is called the navigation box. It has the home, about, more info. And by default, the box is gonna take the full width of its container that it's inside of its parent. Unless there's some padding, then there's some padding in the parent. That's why it's not taking up the full width, but it's gonna go as far left and right as it can. So let me give it a width, or I don't even have to give it a width. I could just say display flex if I want to. Do that. Cool. Or I can just give it a width too. I can give this nav box width. I can say, hey, width is, let's say it's just going to be 250 pixels. So now it's like this. And then let's give it a min height of, let's say, 500 pixels. Now it's a little bit bigger. All right, cool. This kind of looks like a NBA.com in a way, right? We're slowly, oh, not this NBA.com, it has no CSS. Let me refresh it. Oh, wait, I forgot, NBA.com changed up their style. ESPN.com. You know that there's like this box right here, right? So you guys can kind of see what we're doing here, right? This is a bunch of divs, and there's some text that we have inside the divs, right? There's even buttons. You can create buttons if you want. Cool. All right, that's the other one. Cool. So we got that. And we can give this blue box, we can do some cool stuff with it too. Like we already know about background color. Right? But you know about background color. We even showed that you can have background color. It doesn't have to be the word yellow, blue, green, gray. It can be anything from this color spectrum. Like you can be like, okay, it could be some RGB code, like something like this. And you can use Visual Studio Code to generate RGB codes, or you can also generate RGB codes, generate RGB colors. And you can click on this and you be like, okay, what do I want? I want something towards the blue, but a little bit lighter greenish, but like darker, lighter, more transparency greenish. Now this the colors for that is 211 red, 243 green, and 233 blue. So I would put those numbers in that order if I want this color. Or they even give you the hex number. You can even use this code to get the number. You see this number right here? This number will represent this color now. And I can do that right here, background color. Let me just zoom the screen. Background color. I gotta save it. Oh, I need a hashtag. Cool. And now it's this color, right? And I can even do something more fancy. Like, what if it can have some gradients? So I'll show you guys this website. It's called cssgradients.io. And I can do some cool stuff here too. I can say, okay, let me do something with like some type of gradient, like this, a little bit like this, a little bit less checker boxy, and then maybe like a radial, meaning like it kind of goes like this, and then maybe something towards like this lighter blue, maybe even something like a little bit more reddy, right? And like this, give it a little bit this, look at that. And I can make it a little bit less red, and more dark. So I'm increasing the darkness, right? And then maybe increasing the amount of bluishness. So I can do something like this too. And maybe I can make it like a little bit like this, and then slightly like this. I can do something like this. Cool. I can just make up some stuff. And then what's the hex code for this? Oh, right here. Copy this. It generates a hex code for me. And I can say, right here, I can say, hey, you know what? Change it to that. Oh, wait, this is gonna need, instead of background color though, I'm gonna need to tell it, it's right here, hold on. This one, radial gradients. So background. So I'm just gonna copy, it gives me the code that I need in order for that to work. Oh, what? By scrolling, you're accepting cookies. Cool, I did not consent to that. Okay, that's okay. All right, there's a copy to clipboard. I'm gonna copy to clipboard. Sorry, I teach back end a lot. I don't really teach front end too much. So there we go. So I'm just gonna copy that code and just get rid of this background color. And cool. Now we got this cool little thing right here. I don't know why it's nice, but it's cool, you know? Kind of looks like a black hole on it. It looks like my monitor just broke, honestly. But that's okay. It's like someone just broke my monitor, but that's okay. I can do cool things like that too. So you can get code snippet. Do you think I'm gonna memorize this? No, right? I'm gonna know what tools and resources I have available to use to do different things. But now let's say I want another box here. But if I want another box here, where's my annotation tool? Here it is. If I want another box right here, well, by default, a box is going to take the full width of its container. So this box is going to just stack underneath this blue box. So I would need to create a box that can contain both of these boxes inside of it and then display them with display flex. Okay. So I actually need like a box to contain this box 1 and box 2 inside of it. Because if I just have box 2, and this is where it gets more complicated. If I just have box 2, for example, let me create another box. So there's the nav box, it ends right here. And then let me create another box. And then let's say this one's just gonna have a H3 magic. Ask your question and get an answer. Sounds like those billboards when you like drive across the country, right? H3. All right, so this is going to be a box with an H3 in it. And let's give it some way to identify it. Let's give it a class is equal to the question box. Let's call it the question box, where we can click on it and it'll generate some random text for us. So I'm going to select this question box. I'm going to say dot question box and then curly braces. Oh, and by the way, you need the semicolons at the end, otherwise it's not going to work. That's called syntax. That's the rules of the language. Like, I need the semicolon at the end, otherwise it's not going to work. For each line, to end each line, I need a semicolon. For CSS, that's the rules for CSS syntax. So question box, let's say background color. I don't know, let's think of another color. Something like purpley. Okay. Yeah, let's use this one, RGB, this. It's okay, Cipriano. Yeah, you'll be able to see the recording, pause, and check your code and do all that. So I give it RGB that, and I need to do a semicolon. And let's see, where's my question box? Well, it's all the way down here. And by default, a box, does it have any height and width? If I remove this H3, I don't even see it. It has no height and width. We're not going to see it. But if I put this H3, the height and width of a box will just expand to whatever content is inside of it. So I put an H3 in there. So now, in order to fit this little header, the box is like that. Cool. So now I can go ahead and let's say I want this box to be a little bit bigger, right? Let's say I wanted to have a min height. Maybe I wanted to have a min height of also 500 pixels. Cool. Now it has a height of 500 pixels, but by default, this box takes up the space of the whole container that it's in. And maybe I want to make it have a smaller width. Let's say I can just test it out. Let's say the width is also 500 pixels. Okay, now it's a little bit smaller. Maybe I want the width to be bigger. Let's say like, 1000 pixels. Okay, this is a good width, but I want this box and this box to be next to each other so that I can move this purpley box right over here. Well, in order to do that, I need to put both this box and this box inside of a box and tell the box that they're both inside of to allow things to be next to each other. And that's where things get a little bit more complicated, but don't worry, you'll have like a whole week to learn this stuff and get help on it. So I need to put both of these boxes inside of a box. Let's call this div class is equal to main content. And then let me close that right here. So now I have a box that's going to have both the blue and the purple. Well, not this purple, but blue in this box. Now I have a box that contains both of these. It's called main content. Let's see what main content looks like. I'm going to give it a different color. Dot main content, background color. I don't know. Let's do another color here.
Quick question while you're stuck on the whole figuring out a color. So in a situation, say, where we have the box on the bottom, so at the footer, and say I want to make it next to the nav box. How would I code that so that the box could be moved over, say, to the right, or like, I guess, figure out its placement?
Yeah, we're gonna go over that right now. Because right now I'm just figuring out the color right now of the parent box that's going to contain the blue box in this purple box right here, these two boxes. But you're saying I want to make them aligned so that they're next to each other, right?
Yeah, correct.
Correct. That's exactly what we're about to do. Because
Okay.
in order to do that, I need to arrange them inside of a box and say,
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say, hey, so these are the boxes I have now. I have a box. This is the this is the parent, and this is a child, child
Yeah.
1 and child 2.
True. Yeah, no, I totally get the mapping. I totally get that. That's why we're doing the whole different color thing. So it's not as confusing. Because
Perfect.
when you have the one color, it's like, yeah, what are we looking at?
This is
Got
like,
it.
looks like one box, exactly.
Yeah.
Now this parent box, I need to tell this parent box to tell it, hey, the children boxes inside of you are allowed to be next to each other, because by default, boxes are not allowed to be next to each other. They have to stack one on top of another, which is why, remember when we went on that NBA site, NBA.com.
Oh, you know what? You changed it for ESPN.
ESPN, yeah. ESPN.com. When I disabled all the styles. Oh, no, not disable that. Disable styles. They by default. Oh, it was NBA.com.
Yeah, there we go.
So yeah, disable all styles. Remember how they by default stack on top of one another?
Yeah.
That's the default behavior of boxes, saying, hey, boxes are not allowed to be next to each other. Brecca asked a question. Class is just a way to name a box, and it gets more nuanced, which you'll learn like in the days 3 and 4 about the difference between an ID and a class. But you can identify a box using either ID or class. So by default, boxes aren't allowed to be next to each other. They have to be on top of one another. But if I want them to be allowed to be next to each other, I need to tell the parent box that its children boxes are allowed to be next to each other. So that's why I created a parent box and I labeled it P. It's this little bluish one right here. And its children boxes are this purple one and then this blue one with that little circle thing coming out. So it's C1 and C2. I'm gonna tell the parent box that its children are allowed to be next to each other. So main content is the parent box. So main content is the parent box that has these two as children. The nav box is one child, which is this blue one. And this purple one is one child. So, purple one, right? So I'm gonna tell the parent box, which is the main content that contains both of these two boxes. I'm gonna tell the main content box that its children are allowed to be next to each other. So that's display flex. So now they're allowed to be next to each other. And let's say I want this purple box to have some space on the edge of its left border. So what am I going to use? Padding or margin? If I want space on the outside.
Isn't it padding?
Padding, okay. Padding, let's see what padding does. Padding, let's talk about padding real quick. So now, we need annotation tools. Clear all screens. So now we have the main parent box right here. And in the parent box, it has these two children, child 1 and child 2. And the children are touching the inside edges of the parent. So if I want spaces inside of the box to be respected, it's like padding. Okay, so I can say, hey, the padding of the parent box, let's say it's 10 pixels. Cool. So now these children boxes can't touch the inside border of the parent box. But now let's say I want these two children boxes to have some spaces between them. So the children box is, I got this one's the question box, the purple one is the question box, and the blue one is the nav box. The C1 is the nav box, and C2 is the question box. So question box right here. if I give this one padding, you see this this header has to respect the space at the edge of it. But what if I want this purple box and the blue box to separate on their outside edges, not the inside? Because padding gives me separation on the inside edges. So margin gives me separation on the outside. So I say, hey, you know what? This purple box, which is the question box, I wanted to have margin left to the left side. So maybe I want this purple box, this left border, to have space outside of it that's being respected. So margin left 10 pixels. And now there's some spacing here. Maybe let's make it 30 pixels. Cool. So now you're starting to see how we're making like a website here, right? It looks kind of ugly with this magic 8-ball header being purple, but let's not give the header any text. Okay. And also the paragraph tag, let me not give it any styling. Will I still get the email with the recorded session? Yeah, you signed up with the email to join this thing. So anyone that's in this session right now, you had to sign up with an email at some point to register for this event. So we have all your emails and we'll send you the YouTube link with this video. And if you want, you can always go to this channel, youtube.com instructor Rob, to find all the other videos that I've done of other examples. So instructor Rob, I'll send you the channel. It'll be in this channel. Okay, feel free to like, subscribe, and promote this book. But cool. Yeah. Awesome. So, and I'm gonna be putting out more videos here, some public videos as well that you'll be able to see. Just like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Shameless plug. Okay, so cool. Now you guys are kind of starting to see the pattern here, right? Of working with boxes. Now imagine, I mean, this has only been like what, 2 hours? Well, probably more than 2 hours. I gotta pick up my kids. Oops, I'm just kidding. I don't have kids, but that was a joke. But it's been like 2.5 hours and with a lot of questions and answers. Imagine like going like a whole week of just HTML, CSS. You'll learn a lot more, right? And doing like 70 hours that week. How to link CSS with HTML. In Codepen, it automatically links. In Visual Studio Code, you have to go here and then type in link and then CSS and then just the name of your, as long as the CSS file is in the same folder as your HTML, just put the name of your CSS here. That's how you do it. But there's a whole lesson on that. Cool. Anyways, I'm gonna continue to let's put some JavaScript here real quick, and then we're almost done. Where's my annotation tool? Annotate, clear all drawings. Okay, cool. So I think this is good enough for now. You guys kind of get the basis of HTML and CSS now. HTML is the content, CSS is me styling the content. And you guys can kind of see how this is starting to look more and more like a website, right? I want to show you something cool, actually. You see this purple box? What if I wanted it to have like, purple box is the question box. Border radius 10 pixels. Look what happens when I do border radius. It gives me like a rounded border. Right? There's another property like box shadow. Yeah, exactly how it's like box shadow. I think it needs 3 things. No, it needs 4 things. I'll say like 2 pixels, 2 pixels, and then black. I don't know, something like that. It doesn't need 4 things. Look, you see that? It gives some type of shadow here, some little shadow. Maybe I can do gray. Maybe I can make it like 4 pixels, 4 pixels. So he's got like a little shadow here. You know, you can do a lot of cool stuff. There's so much things that you can do. Now, let me go ahead and let's go to the next part where.
Yeah, just got back in. Lost my internet connection there, so got lost along the way.
It's okay. It's all right. We're about to start the JavaScript portion now, but we just kind of like showed some CSS here with the HTML, formatted the boxes so that they can be next to each other, so that we can have boxes inside of boxes. We can even do some cool things like this, like, you know, all different types of things. You know, you name it. You can do all types of things. Even like a little shadow on this box right here. You see that little gray shadow, make a rounded border, things like that. But now let's talk about JavaScript. Let's say I have a bunch of questions, or not a bunch of questions. This Magic 8-Ball game, this is going to be an app where I can click on a button. And when I click on this button, so let's say there's a button. So maybe there's a button tag in HTML. It has opening and closing. And let's say right now, this is what the button looks like with nothing inside of it. Right? I can click on it all day, but it has nothing inside of it. Let's say it says find an answer. Cool. If I click it, if I click find an answer, so let's say I'm going to ask some question like, hey, should I really do intermittent fasting, or should I just eat whatever I want? And I click find an answer, and it'll generate from a list of answers like a random answer, and it'll tell me a random answer. That's the interactivity. So let's do that. When I click on this button, I want it to generate something here. So I can have a place where it can generate something, like maybe like a H4 tag. And it'll probably say, this is where the answer will show up. Okay, cool. So it says this is where the answer will show up. And maybe when I click on this H4 tag, it will do something. So I can tell it to do something when I click on this tag. Remember, JavaScript is like dynamic in terms of it's the interactivity. So when I do something like hover over something, or when I type on something, or when I click on something, it's gonna have some type of action. So I can tell this H4 to listen for a click that happens whenever someone clicks on it to do something. So I can tell it, hey, on click is equal to, it's gonna do something. And I'm gonna give it these quotes. And I don't know what it's gonna do yet, but I'm gonna define some function here. In JavaScript, it's a programming language where you can have functions. So I'm gonna create a function called find answer. And it's going to, what it's going to do is there's gonna be a list of answers they can choose from. So maybe in order to create a list of answers, I need to create a variable using this keyword var, and let's just call it list of possible answers. And you shouldn't have spaces in your variable names, okay? List of possible answers is equal to, and this square brackets is called an array. This is, I'm going into week 2 stuff, so I know this is going kind of fast. I'm just covering HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in like 2 hours, but you're gonna learn all this, and more deeply in a week, and actually 2 weeks. You're gonna have a whole week of JavaScript. But this is an array that has an opening and closing square bracket, and I can have a list of potential answers. So what are lists of potential answers that we want to automatically randomly generate from? Maybe I'll say, I don't know, just YOLO. YOLO means you only live once, by the way, for anyone that's not hip to that. Maybe another answer is like,
try asking again.
Is what?
Try asking again.
Oh, try asking again. Maybe another one's like, no, just no. And maybe another one's like, absolutely. Maybe another one's like, You'd be crazy if you did that. And then maybe another answer would be like, why do you ask such weird things? Right? I don't know. Let's say funny magic 8-ball answers. Hopefully they're appropriate. Okay. Cannot foretell now, cannot say now, so it shall be, so it shall be. The stars say no, you know, stuff like this. So a bunch of potential answers. So it shall be, the stars say no. And maybe the last one is like, I don't know why you asking that, and I don't know why you asking that when instead you should be getting steak, milk steaks. Milk steaks. Life is short. It'll be shorter with milk steaks probably, but yeah, so there you go. So these are the potential answers, okay? So I'm putting it in this thing called an array. This is called a data structure, and you're gonna learn about data structures as well in this boot camp. You're not just gonna learn how to build web apps, you're gonna learn about data structures, algorithms, you're gonna learn how to build different types of algorithms, all that cool stuff. But this is a variable called list of possible answers. And this first thing is, this is the first thing in this array. So this square brackets, opening, closing, means everything inside of it isn't, this is in an array, and each thing inside of it is a value in the array, and they have a position, and it starts at position 0, position 1. So if I were to do something called console.log, list of possible answers. So let's just do something real quick. I want to show you something called console.log. Console.log, and then list of possible answers. List of possible answers at, and I use square brackets and I tell it which one. And the first one is actually going to start counting at 0. So at index 0 means this one. Index 1 means this one. Index 2 means this one. Index 3 is this one. So it basically starts counting at 0. So the first one is index 0, second one is index 1, and so on. So I'm saying console.log, meaning just right onto the console. And what is the console? I'm going to right click on this browser and click on inspect. That's something that's available in everyone's browser. And if you click on console, you'll see something. You'll see this little empty thing. And if I were to call this function, it's called find answer. I can call my JavaScript function from here. Find answer. And it console.logs. I don't know, just YOLO, right? So it gave me a console.log list of potential possible answers at index 0. So it's like, okay, what is list of possible answers? Is this thing. At index 0 is this one. So if I do index 3, which answer do you think it's going to give me?
The no.
Okay, so if this is index 0, it starts counting at 0 though.
Yep.
It's the tricky
So then absolutely.
Yeah, it says absolutely. So it's like this is 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's say I'll tell it, hey, give me the value at index 3 of this list of possible answers. So now if I call find answer, this is the name of the function that I'm calling. Find answer. What? Oh, I spelled it wrong. Did I spell it wrong? No, I didn't. Uncaught reference error. Find answer is not defined. Yeah. Let me refresh this real quick. Okay. Call this. I'm going to copy this, so I just make sure I don't make any spelling errors. Find answer. Why does it not do that? It was just doing it earlier. Find answer is not defined. Something happened with this Codepen. Oh, maybe I gotta go to this console. Okay. I'm gonna get rid of this console. I gotta use the console from the Codepen, probably. Okay. Find answer. Okay, cool. It says absolutely. Good. How would I get so it shall be? What index number is so it shall be gonna be in? Index 6.
7.
1, 2, 3,
7.
5, 6.
Oh,
So
6.
actually- yep. So if I do at index 6, and then if I go here, click on the bottom, find answer, it says so it shall be. Okay, now I don't want it to generate the 6th answer every single time. I want it to generate a random answer. So I want to generate a random number from what, 1 to 1 million? Or does it depend on the size of this list?
The size of the
Size of the
list.
list.
Cool. Let's see how many things are in this list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 things in this list. And instead of having to type, JavaScript actually helps me to find the length of something by, there's this function called .length. So I can say list of possible answers .length. And if I want to see what it looks like, I can console.log list of possible answers .length. So now it's going to log onto the console the length of my array, because what if I add a bunch of things into it? Then the length can increase, right? So it's going to tell me the length of the array. Let's see if it does that. Find answer. So it says 9. Cool. And if I add more things to it, like ask your mother. Okay. All right. So then if I do find answer, the length of that array changed now, right? Now it's 10. So now it's dynamic. It gives me the length of the array. And I want to generate a random number from what to what to give me a random answer. Okay, Erica said 1 to 8, but what number do we start counting at?
3.
We start counting at 0.
Oh, 0.
Because the first thing is at 0. So I want to get any of these answers. So it could be either 0, it could be 1, it could be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Where's my 10? 1, no, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, those are my indexes. So 0 to 9 are my available index numbers to get information from. So I want to get a random number between 0 to 9, but is it going to be 9 every time, or does it depend on the length of my array? It depends on the length of my array. So I want to get a random number, generate a random, this is just a comment. This is not going to do anything, by the way. Just generate a random number between 0 to length of array, so that I can return, so that I can give back a value that is a random number. Okay, so let's do that. So generate a random number between 0 to the length of the array. Okay, in order to generate a random number, I'm just going to tell you right now what it is. Right, I'm not going to go too much into it. There's this module called math module in JavaScript. Don't worry, you don't need to know math to be able to do it. Let's just put it in a variable. Var random index is equal to, I'm going to use math.random. And this is going to give me a random number. And then I'm going to multiply it by the length of the array, which is list of possible answers dot length. So math.random gives me a random number from 0 to 1. So it'll give me 0.5, 0.3, 0.26, 0.8. It'll generate a random number each time. And if I multiply it by, whatever the length of the array is, and if the length of the array is like 10, it's going to multiply that by 10. And then I would like to see what that number looks like. So let's console.log random index. So let's see what that looks like. Unexpected token dots. Where's the dot? That's fine. Cool. So find answer. So it gives me a decimal number, but I want it to be a whole number. So, but it gives me a random number each time. Right? You see that? It gives me a random number. And it gives me a random number between 0 to 10. But I want a whole number because there's no index number 1.4. There's index 0, there's 1, there's 2. So in order to, I want to round this number down to its whole number. So in order to do that, it's math.floor. So I can say math.floor, math.floor, this whole thing. Math.floor, everything in here. So give me the rounded down version. So now let's see what that looks like. Cool, it gives me 1, it gives me 9, it gives me 2, it gives me 6. It's generating a random number for me. So now I don't have to say 6 every single time. I can say random index. Give me a random number at a random index. Cool, it says no, so it shall be. So someone ask a question real quick. Ask any question to this magic box.
What's tomorrow's date?
What's tomorrow's date? Absolutely. Hey, what should I have for dinner today? I don't know. Why are you asking me when you should be getting milk steaks? Life is short. Cool. Perfect. That was a perfect answer for that question. Hey, hey, is basketball better than football? You'd be crazy if you did that. Okay, so it's giving me random answers. Okay, cool. Now let's make it so that it doesn't show the random answers on the console. It actually shows up on this page when I click on this button. So when I click on this button, I want it to run this find answer function. So I can say that here on the button, on click, when this, well not button, when this H4 is clicked. No, not the H4, sorry. I want when this button is clicked on click, I can tell it to run this find answer function. And I can just tell it run this function. I can just copy this. This is the name of the function. Copy that. So when the button is clicked, it's gonna give me an answer now. Check this out. I'm gonna open up the console. I think you gotta go down to the bottom here. It says console. Now check this out. Now when I click on this button, it's gonna give me random things. Boom. I don't know why you asked me that. Let me get rid of these other console.logs now. I'm gonna comment it out so it's not part of the code. To comment out in JavaScript, it's 2 slashes. Cool. Cool, so I generate a random number and then I show a random answer at a random index. So if I click on this button, it's gonna give me random answers. Cool, so now there's some functionality. Now I want this answer to be part of right here. So I could do that. I could say this H4, let me give it an ID. IDs, or I can even give it class. Class is equal to answer. Let's call it answer. And I can tell it, hey, wherever the answer, wherever there's a HTML element named answer, replace the content inside of it with an answer from this, from here. So I can say that by saying, I can grab the elements by creating a variable. Let's call this answer elements. You can just name it whatever. I'm trying to grab this thing, but it has this ID, or it has this name called answer. And in CSS, this is how we called their names, right? We use this syntax. Hey, if its name is answer, I'm just gonna say dot answer and then do this. And I want to format it some way. That's how you did it in CSS. In JavaScript, I want to use something called document.query, and I think it's the capital S, query selector, and then the name of the element that I want to get. Cool. So I got that, and I can set the answer elements inner HTML, answer elements dot inner text. This is a property of this particular H4. Set the inner text to be equal to whatever the random answer is. So list of possible answers at a random index. So now when I click, I cannot set properties of null, setting inner text. Is inner text document.query selector. Oh, I need to do dot answer because it's a class, so I gotta identify with a dot. Okay, cool. Now let's, cool. So now it shows up here. So we're gonna go over this now. I'm gonna go over what's happening here with the code, but for now, so someone asked a question.
You said we could ask a question?
Yeah, just ask like a random question for this magic 8 ball.
Dang. How long do I have left, or how much ink do I have left in this pen?
Okay. The stars say no. Okay, good. Okay, yeah, so did I run over time by a lot? No, oh no, I did though, but the answer is yes. I was hoping it was gonna say absolutely. But you see, it's gonna give me random answers. So what's happening? Let's talk about the JavaScript. Let's go over that real quick. So I have a button here that when this on click thing is a built-in term in HTML that allows me to listen for an event, for a click event for this button. So when this button is clicked, I'm telling it to run this function called find answer. And the functions are in my JavaScript. So it's gonna run this function called find answer every time I click on this button. So whenever I click on this button, it's gonna run this function. And in this function, here's some code that's commented out. So this code is not gonna do anything because it has a two slashes. That means it's not gonna do anything. But this one's not commented out. So it's a variable called random index that's equal to math.floor, meaning round down this information. What is this? This math.random. Math.random gives me a random number between 0 to 1. So like 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.5, 0.98, 0.65986929, 0.298. Okay, I'm gonna stop that. But it's gonna gives me a random number, and I'm gonna multiply it by the length of my array, which is this thing. And this array has a bunch of things inside of it. So I want to know, hey, how big is this array? Because I can only pick an answer from within this. I can't say, give me a list of possible answers at index number 50 million. Well, it doesn't have index number 50 million. It has index number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and this actually is word wrapped right here, 8 and 9. It has 9 indexes. If it has 9 indexes, that means it's 10 things long because 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. When you start counting from 0, there's an extra, it's more than one more than what you think of it, right? So I can only pick a random number between 0 to 9. So I want to get a random number between 0 to 9. So math.random was going to give me a random decimal number and multiply it by the length of the array. So it's going to give me a random decimal number between 0 to 9. And I'm going to math.floor it so that that decimal goes away. So it's going to be between 0 to 9. So random index is going to be a random number from 0 to 9. And then this console.log is just supposed to display it on this thing called the console right here. So it's good for like kind of testing out your code. I don't even need it. So then I generate a random number, and then I select the elements using this thing called the elements, the HTML element where I want the answer to show up in. So I want it to show up in this H4 element right here, where it says this is where the answer will show up. So I want the answer to show up right here. So I said, hey, let me select the element that I want the answer to show up in. So I put that in a variable called answer element. And in order to select that element, I said document.querySelector. And then I said, look for something with the class name. I use a dot to say class name answer. And it looks into my HTML file for anything with the class name called answer. It's like, oh, here it is. So this is the one that we're selecting. Okay, so it selects that and puts it in this variable called answer elements. And I set answer elements inside text to be that random answer every time I press this button.
This is exactly what defense would look like.
Hold on. Hold on. What is that? Everybody in the Zoom chat get muted. Cool. All right, cool. Yeah. Cool. So that's what's happening. So then it changes the inner text of this answer elements, which is this H4, to be list of possible answers at a random number. So list of possible answers is this array at a random number between 0 to 9. So it'll give me any one of these random ones. So let's see this kind of like in full screen. Let me close out the console. Find answer, find answer, find answer. Cool. And I can even share this code with you guys. Copy link, and I'm gonna put it in the Zoom chat. Paste it, and that's it. You guys have that now. Okay. Any questions?
Nope, I'm good.
Things are making sense. You guys learned a lot.
Oh yeah, I definitely now know more than I did before doing this boot camp thing. So, yeah.
Nice, cool. There you go. Good. And remember, everything great in learning happens with consistency. So, I mean, we did this right here for like 2.5. You just studied for like 3 hours just now. Wow, we went overtime. That's okay. But we just studied for like 3 hours, basically. We just learned for 3 hours. Imagine doing this like 10 hours a day, like 6 days a week for like 4 months. You think you'll know something?
I mean, definitely will, especially if it's like, given how, you see these little errors sometimes where you kind of don't see what where the error is, like what did you do wrong, and having, associates and having access to our teachers to kind of show us the hiccup. Yeah. And, it's also probably the homework that we'll have. It's like, yeah, I think with the consistency of all that, this is something that's obviously anyone can learn.
Yep, and you'll have homework assignments like so like this is like little chapters. Like you'll have some little guided videos here. Talks about some CSS. Here you can change the color. You can do even font size. You can do border. You can do background color. It'll show you a bunch of stuff. It'll even show you documentation with even more stuff that you can learn. And then it'll show you different things. And in the lecture, I'll go like instructors will be going over this. I don't really teach Web1. I teach Java and JavaScript fully. So, it shows you all the things. And then you have a homework, you have even quizzes, and you have homework assignments like, okay, create this. And then when you're creating it, you run into some issues, something happens, or you don't know where to start, you ask for help to an instructor and teaching assistants, instructors and teaching assistants, and then you learn. and that's what happened, you know. That's how that works. So I see a question in the chat. It says query selector brings HTML to JavaScript, right? So query selector allows me to select the part of the HTML that I want to change. So where is that? Where's my Codepen? So query selector, what query selector does is saying, hey, select, like, let me select this part of the HTML that has the name dot answer, and anything with a dot means it's a class. So anything with the class name answer. So select something with the class name answer. So that's what query selector does. It just says, hey, let me get access to that and put that, represent it in this variable called answer element. So now answer element represents this whole H4 right here. And then in line 25 is where I actually change the HTML of that particular element, saying answer element dot inner text, change it to one of the random answers. Did that answer your question? Cool. Yes. The question is, does Visual Studio Code also handle compiled Java? Yes, Visual Studio Code literally can work with every single coding language that's ever been created. Maybe not ever, but like every single one that like is used. Yeah, Visual Studio Code is great. It's free, and yeah, and there are plenty of resources online for you to learn from as well. But you know, if you get errors, or if you have questions and things don't make sense, like that's the purpose of having like a school to go to or coding boot camp, where you'll have guided lessons and guided examples, and you'll have specific homework assignments. Like, okay, you got to be able to build this before we move forward. It's just a bunch of boxes that have background colors. Okay, cool. And now build this. And then we'll give you the images for this right here. And then when you're working on it, you're trying to build something. And how do you learn? Are you going to learn? Like, you just watched and participated in this lecture, but did you really learn a lot from? I mean, you may have learned a lot from it, but when are you really going to learn? Is when you actually build this out. So we'll give you assignments. It's like, okay, now make all the boxes so that the format's like this, and each box has an image. And here's a bunch of images. And maybe we'll even have a demo that shows you something kind of similar to that. And then after you upload your video, we'll give you a code review, and then there's more assignments. Okay, now build something like this. Build like a header like this. Now it starts to like kind of pick up. And then now you got to build something like this, right? And then slowly builds up. It's like, okay, now build this. And this is all in week 1. And then you learn, and as you're doing it, there's no like nothing bad happens if you like mess up. Like the computer doesn't blow up or anything, you know? Actually, maybe it might blow up in some cases, I don't know. But if something happens, this doesn't work, maybe it's like, hey, none of my code is showing, and it says Jane Doe, but like it's in the middle of the page for some reason, and I'm trying to get this part and this part to be next to each other, and I can't do it. Well, we have this rule called the 20-minute rule. So if you're trying to do something for 20 minutes and it's not working, you ask for help. And how do you ask for help? In Zoom chat, in the Zoom channel, you'll be in breakout rooms, and the instructor and TAs will be in certain breakout rooms. You can just hop into a breakout room and ask for help whenever you need it. And that's how it works. And then you do that for like 70 hours a week, and you will learn a lot. You will build a lot of cool stuff. And 4 months of doing that will be equivalent to like a year of experience, which is enough to get you a job as a junior developer, making about, having a good career, like progress. Like now, not everyone gets a job immediately at like 100,000, but my first job after the coding bootcamp as a student, it was that I just tried to get my foot in the door, because I was like, okay, I just went to a coding bootcamp for 3.5 months. I actually had to repeat Python because I failed Python, and then I had to take it again. So it was like 4.5 months. And then And then, it took me like 2 months to find a job. And then that first job, I wasn't like, oh, it's not 100,000. No, it was like, oh, 55,000. I mean, I'll just take it. I'll just get my foot in the door. And as soon as I got my foot in the door, then I started to get a lot of experience, and I started to learn, and I started to get paid to learn this stuff, because I was at a job and it wasn't like the salary that I wanted, 55K. But then within like 4 months of working there, I started, getting, recruiters hitting me up, and someone hit me up on Oracle, and then, you could double your salary, like just like that.
So I know that we talked more about website development and all that, but what is the difference between website development and software engineer?
So software engineer is like more than just websites. You can make all different types of software, like desktop apps, cloud native applications.
And are they using all these like same codes? Like, I wouldn't assume that they're using HTML, but are they using
same concepts?
Okay.
Like you're gonna learn about data structures, and we just saw one data structure so far. It was the array that had all of our possible answers in.
Mm-hmm.
So these data structures are going to be present everywhere, and you're going to learn how to manipulate data structures and how to manipulate the front end, and do all that in our bootcamp. And you apply these principles towards, so actually my first job as a developer was not with any of the languages I learned at Coding Dojo. I wasn't building what we learned at Coding Dojo, but because I knew how to code, they hired me to do Appian development, which was like a platform as a service where I built applications using that. But it had similar concepts. Like there was things called for loops and conditional statements and arrays and data types that you learn about. Like you see these things inside of quotes, they're called strings. They're like, that's a data type. There's numbers, there's true and false, that's Boolean. Cool. I see more questions. Are all those lessons full-time or part-time students? I think part-time as well. So yeah, do we have this? Let's see. Do we have Aya in the house? Let's see, there should be time. Sterling, who's the Sterling is my teacher.
Hello.
Yeah, Sterling has all those answers in terms of full-time, part-time, and all that stuff.
Yeah. So what was the question?
Are all these lessons that I just showed about, like, web fundamentals, HTML, CSS, are they for full-time and part-time students?
Yes. So whether you're full-time or part-time, you're going to be learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript. If you're part-time, like let's say accelerated, you might have 1, 2, or 3 stacks, but you'll definitely be learning those initial HTML, CSS, JavaScript portions first.
Cool. Yeah. Hey, welcome, Sterling. Sorry, I took pretty long on this demo. This crowd had a lot of great questions, so thank you, everyone that participated and engaged. You guys made it really fun, and because of that, time flies by when we're having fun, and it just went a little bit longer than usual. But thank you for joining us, Sterling. I think we're ready to start asking questions. We're open for all the questions related to the bootcamp now, so Sterling and I will be able to answer your questions here. So just let us know.
What is the ratio to full-time and part-time students? And also, what is the dropout ratio for both?
So that first question, what do you mean by that, the ratio?
By that, I mean, like, so how many people in the program are full-time compared to part-time?
So I don't know the exact percentage, like breakdown of that. It's generally just based on somebody's schedule, like work availability. The full-time, part-time are both the same curriculum. If you're doing accelerated, if you're doing 3 stacks accelerated, exact same curriculum as a full-time, exact same career services. It's just going to be different amount of time per week. Therefore, it's a bit longer if we're doing accelerated.
Mhm.
And as far as the dropout rates, I also don't know the exact percentages. I do know that the majority happen within the first 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. Anybody who makes it past the first month generally sticks it out through the program.
Mhm.
But mostly it's what's the biggest challenge for people is not so much the material. The instructors are great. It's often that, let's say they enroll in full time and, you know, they're expected 70 hours a week, but, you know, they want to work or whatever else. They don't have the time to put in. That's a challenge. Or they're doing part-time accelerated. You know, we tell them you're gonna need 25, 30 hours a week. They overestimate the amount of time they have. They're not able to put in that 25, 30 hours a week. And then that's a challenge for them. So generally it's the time they have, or they just drop out because they start and they're like, oh, actually, I don't want to do coding. So in the first few weeks, they leave.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
But I do have an answer for ratio in terms of student to instructor from like personal, like I'm an instructor, so I know exactly what's going on with that. I'm currently teaching the MERN stack, which is a Mongo database with JavaScript, which is like stands for, you know, Node, Express, React, and MongoDB. It's a full stack application that also has a database and all this cool stuff. That's part of the full-time curriculum, and my class roster is about 25 students, and I have 2 teaching assistants supporting me as well. So we have 3 staff members available to help, and there's never any wait times for people getting help, or there's barely any wait times. Like people usually, whenever they have questions, they'll be able to ask an available teaching assistant or an instructor.
So I know that I asked what the dropout ratio is. What is the succession ratio for either full-time or flex?
Succession meaning graduating or
Yeah.
getting a job
No,
within
no, just graduating.
graduating. Like my last Java class, well, in terms of graduating from my class, from classes, there's several different classes, and you graduate after you take many classes. My last Java class, 100% of people passed their exams. But graduation rates definitely well over 85.
Okay.
Well over 85.
And then job placement?
Job placement in 2019 was the most recent data that we got, right? I'm not sure actually about if we got something new since then, but in 2019 it was it like 88% of students got
Yeah,
alumni?
so it's been updated. So graduated 89.1% within 6 months, find a relevant position. So it's in the industry, median salary between 72 and 80K, and then within a year, it's 95.4%.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
And the reason that those rates are so high is not because not just because, you know, they just magically got the jobs because they're coding bootcamp students. No, no, no. In this coding bootcamp, we every morning, well, in the full time, we give you interview questions, which is working with algorithms and data structures. So those are the whiteboarding questions that they ask you in the interview to see your problem solving skills using code. And we give you a bunch of problems throughout the boot camp, and you solve it every single morning. And we give you a walkthrough explanation and breakdown of it, and have all your questions answered about each of those interview questions. And so you'll be prepared for the interview questions. And then we also have a project week at the end of each class, at the last week of each class. So each class is like 4 weeks long in the full time, at least. I'm speaking for full time right now. And let's say the Python class is 4 weeks long. You got 3 weeks to do the assignments and complete the exam. And in the 4th week, you still have that 4th week as buffer space if you are a little bit slower pace with learning and need to pass the exam. You need to use that 4th week for it. But if you pass the exam within the allotted time, that 4th week will be used towards your own projects for your portfolio. And what's going to get you a job are these algorithms and data structures practice and portfolio projects. And this whatever we just did right here, this is a project that you could have for a portfolio. But, probably make it look nicer than this. It's like 2.5 hours, 3 hours with talking and answering questions and introductions. But yeah, so you're gonna have a bunch of projects and ability to answer interview questions. That's why the percentage is so high. So you gotta kind of follow the curriculum and do what you're supposed to do. And if you do that, then yeah. If for some reason you fail, what happens? I failed Python. I just took it again. But I took in 2017. What's the process for retaking a stack now, Sterling?
So if you fail, you get one free retake. Second retake is at cost for 500, and then if you fail all 3 times, then we have to drop you.
So I have one question. Like for me, like I have a family, got 3 kids. I work. Mostly my availability is like after 4 p.m. So pretty much your classes are strictly only at 9 to 5 hours. Like there's no learn when you got time, or like you guys don't have options like that.
Sorry, could you say that one more time? I didn't really hear my boss.
I was just asking if there's like if the class schedules are strictly just that 9 to 5 hour, because I'm not sure if it would work for someone like me, because I'm a sole provider for my family. I have a full-time job, 3 kids.
Yeah, I mean, that's no problem. If you can't do the full-time, you can do the part-time accelerated, which, or even a part-time flex, depending on how much time you need. But part-time accelerated, for example, it's not mandatory attendance like the full-time, but it is recommended you attend live sessions. Live sessions there's 2 a week. 1 hour each. They're both in the evening, either Monday, Wednesdays, or Tuesday, Thursdays, depending on your cohort. So it's only about 2 to 4 hours of active time a week. The rest can be fit around your schedule. So yeah, you could still do that and work.
Okay.
Yeah, we have part-time programs for people that are working 9 to 5. And we also have recordings of everything and help available in the Discord for when you get stuck.
All right, sounds good.
Full-time, yes, classes are Monday through Friday, and you can sign up for East Coast or West Coast. East Coast runs at 9 to 5 Central Time, and West Coast runs 9 to 5 Pacific Time, and Monday through Friday. And you have help after hours as well. So our teaching assistants are still probably around in Discord right now. So this is like 9 o'clock Eastern Time right now. So if you look at this Discord, you'll see that, well, I think TAs are starting to leave now. Yep, TA just left like 20 minutes ago. But TAs stay around for a while. Cool, any other questions? All right, sounds good. Okay, cool. I'm gonna stop.